I'd be happy to do that, but while we're waiting, in other words, when people aren't here yet?
Well, because they can still watch on
Hunter's here.
They can still watch on the live stream. Oh, Hunter's here? I didn't. Oh, Hunter's here. Cool. Hi, Hunter. Awesome. Oh, and Terry's here.
Terry's here too.
I didn't even see. Are people just popping in? So there's no
No,
waiting
I'm letting
room
him
apparently.
in.
Oh, okay. I didn't even see the. Guys, this is the book we're gonna be discussing. I should just hold it up. Oh, good. Yeah, maybe we will, Dave, because I wasn't sure if anybody else was going to come.
Okay.
So Dave's going to read to you all about what Don Lynch had to say about the book as he wrote the foreword.
Come on in, everybody. Good afternoon.
Hi,
Hey,
Terry.
so this is by Don Lynch.
Going.
A number of books have been written with a focus on specific nationalities of passengers on the Titanic, and some even centering on a particular region or locale. But Eli Moskowitz has written an entire book on people of a particular faith. As a result, it encompasses both passengers and crew and a variety of nationalities. Beyond simple biographies, although some of these life stories are far from simple, Mr. Moskowitz has gone into great detail not just about the lives of those people, but about how their faith impacted the story of the Titanic. He goes into fascinating detail about why these people were on board, the pogroms and forced military service that drove them for the countries, despite the efforts of their religious leaders to keep them from emigrating and possibly leaving their Jewish traditions behind as they settled in new countries and cultures. The story of the Jews on the Titanic goes beyond the night of the disaster. The coverage of the sinking by Jewish newspapers is described. Some of the greatest stories of heroism the night of the sinking, those of Benjamin Guggenheim and, more importantly, Isidor and Ida Strauss, were performed by Jewish passengers and were eagerly picked up by newspapers everywhere. This book doesn't end with the sinking, but continues on with the Jewish involvement in the recovery of so many of the bodies and how they were identified as either Jewish or Gentile. There is also the dilemma widows faced when their husbands' bodies were not recovered, which resulted in issues and restrictions placed upon them by their faith. Like other cultures and religions, the Jewish community saw an abundance of sermons, songs, ballads, essays, and the like resulting from this terrible tragedy. Everyone reading this book will learn something. It details aspects of the disaster that no previous book has described. The Titanic community is indebted to Eli Moskowitz for tackling this subject and covering it so well. Don Lynch.
Aw, thank you. Don Lynch did the foreword on our book here. Thank you
Well
so
done, Don.
much for reading that.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
Trying to think what else we could read while we're waiting for him. So I'll read the intro that they have on Amazon here. It says, "For the Jews of the Titanic, a reflection of the Jewish world on the epic disaster. During an era when millions of Jews were fleeing the pogroms of Eastern Europe, the Titanic sailed on her maiden voyage. At the time, she was the largest and most luxurious ship ever built, and many of her 2,200 passengers were Jewish. At 2340, April 14th, 28th of Nissan 5672. What is
The
that
Jewish
mean?
year.
That's a Jewish year.
Wow, that's really interesting. Thank you, Dave. The Titanic swiped an iceberg and sank within 2.5 hours, and most of her passengers lost their lives. The sinking of the Titanic was one of the worst and well-known maritime disasters of the 20th century. The grief was universal and shared by people of many nations and religions. The book focuses on the lives and deaths of the Jewish passengers who sailed on the Titanic. It covers various Jewish aspects of the voyage and of the sinking. Aspects such as keeping kosher, the Agunot dilemma, and Jewish burial, as Dave mentioned. The book outlines the life story of the passengers and the effect of the disaster made on the world Jewry. The book is the result of a long research on the subject, including an attempt to compose a unique and complete list of all the Jews who sailed on Titanic, and identifying many of them were previously unknown. And I thought this was really neat about the author. Ellie, we think this is pronounced the name Ellie or Eli, but we're gonna find out when he
Eli.
gets here. Eli. Who said Eli? Hunter?
Yeah.
I thought it was Eli too, but someone had mentioned that they heard himself introduce himself as Ellie.
Actually, Ellie is possible because I know another Israeli named Ellie. It depends. I mean, it's like somebody with last name Finkelstein. It's Finkelstein, it's that type of thing.
Finkelstein.
Yeah, so we'll have to ask him when he comes. But he was born in Jerusalem. He has a BS in education and a master's in Jewish history. He's an educator by profession and a Titanic researcher in his spare time. He's been fascinated by the Titanic for decades. The Jews of the Titanic was originally written in Hebrew and is his first book. Well, while we wait for him, why don't we all take turns introducing ourselves and telling a little bit about each other. Does anyone want to go first? Go ahead, Terry.
Terry, your microphone's not on.
Okay.
There she goes.
I am Terry Bay, massive Titanic fan, and also become a massive Olympic fan. Thanks to Wade Sisson's book and all other things I've done. I'm originally from New Jersey, in the New York area. I've lived in Kentucky. Besides the Titanic, I like rock music, horses, NFL, other sports, figure skating, and lots of other things.
Awesome. We're glad you're here.
Thanks for hosting this.
She's also a member of our book club team. Anybody want to go next?
You're
Dave?
equestrian, yes? Some new Titanic enthusiast is a horse lover too.
I'm also a horse lover too.
Right. But somebody just showed up that's a horse lover. It was a woman, I remember. If I can find that profile, do you want me to send you a link and you want to be friends? Or
that would be great. Always
okay.
Yeah, she's always posting awesome horse pictures. Do you have like a horse of the day that you put on Instagram? Because I follow too.
Facebook. Yeah, Facebook and Instagram.
That's right. That's awesome.
Okay.
Love that.
Whoever it is, if she comes across my feed again, I'll send you her page.
Great.
Awesome. Who wants to go next? Richard or Hunter or Dave? If we were in a circle, I'd just say, let's go around in a circle. Well, if we're going in a circle here, Richard, you're next.
Yeah, I'm Richard. I'm in Pueblo, Colorado. That's about 100 miles south of Denver. Originally from Southern California, but I escaped and I'm claiming refugee status here in Colorado. Let me see, big radio guy, amateur radio operator, Titanic historian, graphic artist, the nerd that ran the projector. I'm still that guy. So, yeah, just all around geek, and I'm here. So there we go.
Yay. And he does all our awesome, everything to do with the internet, and he does our YouTube, and he has that great radio announcer voice. You should be the moderator for all these meetings. Thank you, Richard, for all you do. Hunter, do you want to say hi?
Hello, I'm Hunter. I'm from Philadelphia. I've been studying the Titanic since about the year before the James Cameron film came out. I do have a collection which does include a lot of kosher items from the Olympic class ships, including one that I believe is pictured in Eli's book. And I just acquired a memorial pamphlet from the Strauss Memorial. when it was held in New York, their memorial service. Yeah. Not much else.
Hi, Hunter. I'm glad you made it. It's good to hear you once for a change. We've known each other forever, but
yeah, it's nice to finally hear you.
hear your voice. So yeah, cool. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't miss this one for the world.
And Jill, for some reason, you got muted.
Sorry about that. My roommate wanted wanted to know if I wanted to go to the farmer's market, and she was at the bottom of the stairs screaming, "Jill, Jill!" I was like, "Oh, I better run and talk to her." She's like, "Keep going, Jill." Glad you're here, Hunter.
Glad to be here.
Dave, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks. And actually, thank you for reminding me, Hunter. I actually forgot that I am in this book too as well. These are photographs that I have taken, and I don't know if you can see, but he even mentions me by name.
Oh my gosh.
That's right. So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dave. I'm a New York City tour guide, and as tour guides, I'm part of a tour guide professional organization. And what we do is we put on tours for each other. So people think of all sorts of themes like food tours, gay tours, graffiti tours, or neighborhoods, Harlem, Central Park, whatever. And I couldn't really think of anything. And I said, what can I contribute to this group? And I just, out of one day, I just said, how about Titanic? And I asked the woman who coordinates it, and she said, Dave, we've never done a Titanic tour. It's yours. So I said, great. And I went to maps first, and I started to make a line between some things. And then I went out there and I did some dry runs. And every time I looked somewhere, I said, oh, I can add this and I can add that. And I put it on for some very professional people, authors and real big wheels. And they were all just really going with it. And I seemed to have the niche on it. And I just said, oh, but I got to look up this and look up that. And there was so much research to be done that I was just, I joined the THS, and then I just started going to museums, and just the research just threw me in the deep end. And I've just been delving into it ever since, really.
I've been on your tour, and you're quite knowledgeable.
Thank you.
And you have a great memory. I couldn't believe all the things and details and locations you could remember without having
give a
notes.
great tour, Dave.
Thank you. Yes, Hunter. Yes. And it's also probably because I already was a tour guide anyway. So I think I was really uniquely positioned for this. I mean, any enthusiast in New York could have just thought up stuff, but not the way I do, because I already knew things and just, looking around. And so, it's a cool thing to be. I guess I haven't tried this for a year or so, but I guess when I, if you Google a couple of combinations of words, I seem to come up in the top of that. So that's cool.
Oh yeah, but I mean, just being able to remember all that, that's a lot to remember. I'm gonna check my messenger and find out where our friend is. We checked this morning. I hope everything's okay. But I'm Jill. I'm part of the book club too. I live in Rochester, New York. I got into Titanic. I was one of those people that if a movie came out and it was based on history or based on a book, I would go and read the book first. So before Cameron's Titanic came out, I went and took every book out that the library had, and I just got sucked in. Like, I feel like Titanic called me to help remember her. And I just couldn't get enough. And then I joined the Titanic Historical Society too, like Dave, and really learned a lot and went to my first convention and I think 1998 and it was, I don't know, it was really fun. We got to dress up, like we had a Titanic dinner and we got to dress up. And, oh, sorry, I'm just looking at my message here and Eli sent a message 20 minutes ago. Please give me a 1 hour notice before the meeting. Yikes! I'm just reading this now. Hi. I did not know that he needed that. Sorry, folks. Let's see if he's here.
Now, for those who have been to New York in the past, who may or may not have gone up to Macy's, you may remember that the plaque was, you know, like a wood kind of a color, and it's just been gloriously cleaned by now about a year ago, and now it's this beautiful, I guess, original color. It's just this blazing, almost gold color that it is now.
I understand that entrance is currently closed, though, right?
Yes, I posted about that. That was right around the time of the pandemic, and they boarded it up because the riots were happening at the same time. Now, they took all the boards down recently, but I put up pictures of a rope being drawn across the front, so nobody's going in or out of that entrance as of about 2 weeks ago. So if you come to New York right now, I don't know if that access is there.
Yeah, New York's not exactly on my top list of places to go right now.
Oh, well, all the rioting's over. I mean, there's just parades around the street, but there's no, you know, rioting or anything like that. That was just about a week or two.
No, I have a friend of mine, and she goes to them like every day. And I don't know.
Not here. I didn't hear any of that.
Oh, I'm sorry. My father texted me, and for some reason it cut out the sound. I have a friend that lives there, and she's always posting about like every day there's a different protest or riot or something. I don't know. It has nothing to do with that. It's more of the virus than anything.
Yeah, mathematically it's big, but just, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Actually, New York State is the lowest of all the 50 states, and New York is actually per capita very low. Most of the second wave is California, Florida, Georgia, maybe Texas. So really the south, east, and southwest are really the bad places now in terms of the virus.
Yeah.
So Ellie, what did he say? He's not, he needs an hour's notice or something?
Yeah, we're getting it worked. We're getting them moving. I was setting up the meeting, so I didn't see his. We're working on getting him in now. Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, I know there for a while that the virus deaths in New York had put it to the top of the list, and it even exceeded some countries. Just in New York State, it just exceeded some other countries totally. So,
Did you guys need a password to get in? It's telling him he needs the password. I thought if people just registered.
Yeah, it still says in the registration you need a password to get in.
Does anybody know what that is?
Yeah, it's 3112
312
51 311.
Oh wait, here he is. He made it. Yay!
Admit he's in.
Yay! Hi. Oh, you have to turn your
I have the password. I got the
Sorry about that. I tried to be organized and get in and get the meeting.
No, I got the times. I got the times all wrong. I got the times all wrong.
Time zone.
I have the password. I got
Sorry about that. I tried to be organized and get in and get the meeting. Oh, we're hearing. Is you guys hearing that getting repeated?
Yeah, it's coming in somewhere.
How's it doing
Maybe it's
that?
the Facebook feed.
It could be a Facebook feed.
Oh, is somebody watching it on their phone?
No.
Oh, maybe your Facebook feed was somebody's Facebook feed was
Hello.
Can you hear us?
I see you, and I hear you. There are 6 people aboard right now.
Yep, we've got Dave Garden. Do you guys all want to do a quick intro for Eli? All right, we need to know how to pronounce your name. Is it Eli?
Okay.
Eli?
Okay, that's the thing. I never thought it was an issue. I never thought that this was an issue. My name is Eli.
Eli, okay.
In Hebrew, it's short for Elijah, like the prophet. So my Hebrew name is Elijah, but everyone calls me Eli. No one calls me Elijah. No one calls me Elijah.
Okay.
So it's spelled E-L-I because that's the beginning of Elijah. It's not E-L-L-E Eli. It's E-L-I Eli.
Okay.
It was never an issue before until Titanic.
Isn't that funny? Because every single book club I've had, I've been pronouncing the author's names wrong.
It's okay. It's okay.
But this is a good way to learn the right pronunciations.
Same thing happened to me 2 years ago when I launched the book. Everyone called me Eli, and I had to correct them. It was so much fun in Canada. Yeah. Hi, Dave.
Hiya.
Hi. Did we ever meet before? We never met.
No, you're in New York, but never happened.
My bad. I should have hooked up with you when I was in New York. I have an aunt in New Jersey. She gave me a little tour. She took me to Macy's. She took me to Strauss Park.
Right.
I know, I see. She took me to Strauss Park, but I didn't want to do too much because I felt that it's inappropriate to steal all of her attention on Titanic. So it'll have to wait for another time. I want to go to Queens to visit a cemetery there. There's someone buried there from the Titanic. Cantor.
Yeah.
I think it's Sinai Cantor.
Cantor, right. I know that.
And a whole bunch of other stuff, but I couldn't do it all at once. And I will visit New York again after the pandemic is over, and we'll hook up.
For those listening, I couldn't get a word in with Eli because he had family and friends and everybody wanted his time. So part of the gift.
He was popular. Well, in 2021, they're hoping to have the lighthouse restored and have an event in April of 2021. If you want to plan on it.
I hope to visit again.
Is it 2021 or 2022? Maybe it's 2022. Richard, do you remember? Was it?
No, I don't know. It
might be 20 because 2021 sounds kind of.
Maybe you're right.
Soon. I need to look it up. Anyway, that would be a big event. So somehow Dave will have to talk to you and have 2022. Thank you, Terry. Yeah, so that gives people time to save up, and because I think that would be great to have a gathering during that time frame.
Now we are looking at regular, back to normal in next spring, April, because there are actually some walking tours that are okay in New York, as long as you keep it under 10 people and everybody does the protocols. It is permitted now, walking tours. So
for people that live in New York, but people that live abroad, it's the international traveling that's the problem.
That's right.
You see, when this started, and I work in a school, and the school's shut down, I said this is a fantastic time to go to the United States, and the only reason I didn't is I didn't want to be stuck there, because I knew that all the flights are going to be canceled. So luckily I stayed home.
That's right.
Well, we'd love to have you back in New York.
Yes, I want to.
I'll be sure to come down and.
I want to. Not only New York, also Massachusetts and Virginia, and there's a whole bunch of Titanic stuff that's out there for me.
What's in Virginia?
Did I say Virginia?
Yeah.
What's her name? There's a descendant of a Jewish passenger. I think she lives in Virginia. Maybe I'm getting the state wrong. I mean, there's 50 of them, so maybe I'm getting the wrong one.
Yeah, that's all right.
There's a descendant of a Jewish passenger who I've been in contact with, and she invited me also sometime. So we'll see if that works out.
Yeah, that'll be. Shelley Binder, Terry says.
Yes. Who asked that?
Oh
Who was
She's in
yeah,
Tennessee.
Terry.
Yes, it was
Terry's the
Shelley
best.
Binder, of
She's
course.
answered all our questions.
Yeah, she's in Tennessee.
Tennessee. I was gonna say Tennessee, and then I changed it to Virginia. I don't know why.
She's a descendant of the X, Leah
Yes.
X. Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
I think the name was Bender.
Frank
yes,
Philly
yes,
X.
Why is Terry typing and not talking?
You can talk, Terry, if you want. We love having these small meetings because we can
Why
be
isn't Terry
intimate.
saying anything? Terry, say something.
Hi, how you doing? Ellie.
Why are you just typing? Why don't you talk?
Because I was muted. That's why I was muted by the host.
Oh, you can't unmute yourself? I thought I had fixed that.
Myself.
I see Hunter there. Can someone unmute Hunter? Can I unmute?
Oh, I'm here.
Yeah, everybody should be able to unmute themselves. You guys all want to say hi before we get started?
Hi, Ellie. How you doing?
Who am I saying hi to?
Me, Terry.
Terry. Hi, Terry. Hi, Terry.
We're the ones talking about, we're talking online and whatnot. I went to a Titanic convention that Bill Willard was giving. That's how I met Shelley Binder. And we went to the Titanic Museum in Pigeon Forge.
Yeah, I want to go there.
Want to hear a laugh? Guess what passenger I got? Leah Axe.
Oh,
Really?
you got Leah. Oh, and then you got to meet Shelley. That must have been awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
That's a great
She's
story.
great. I love her.
Well, she is Shelley Binder.
Frank Philly
Here's an
X.
interesting thing. In the next year, I know Titanic Pigeon Forge is doing something on the Jewish passengers of the
I think
Titanic.
they contacted me about that. I think they wanted. Some museum in the United States contacted me and wanted me to assist on that. It might be them.
It probably would be because they want. I have a memorial from a cop, the brochure from the Strauss Memorial.
Right now? Who's that talking right now?
That's
Is that Hunter?
Hunter. Yeah.
Okay, I can't see your lips moving, so I don't know if it's you.
Do you have?
Here.
You know what? With this Zoom, you
There
can
you
go
are.
to.
Hi, Hunter.
Hello.
Hi, Hunter.
Hi.
Oh, you've got a
Let me
beard
get
like
my-
my son has a big fuzzy beard like that, and it's
Yeah, I
also
have one of those.
red.
Well, I joked with my friends. I'm not shaving until the thing ends. But I go pretty far to get kosher. So
I can't understand.
none of the stores around here have it.
Didn't hear a word. He's coming down from the top.
I wonder if he's
Can
got
you
a
hear me
bad
now?
connection.
No, you have a bad connection.
Yeah, not enough
One
bandwidth, I think.
No.
Oh, you know what? Sometimes when I turn my video on, it gives me a distorted. All right,
Can you
try.
hear me any better now?
Yeah, try saying that again now. For some reason, the video sometimes messes up the connection.
The reason it's, I'm in a parking garage right now because I have to go drive about 20 minutes to go pick up some kosher steaks.
Yay. Oh, you can finally eat meat after 9 days.
Yes.
Yes, my wife is taking me out for a steak tomorrow.
Oh, awesome. Oh, we want to learn so much. All right, I'm going to introduce you again of Ellie. Ellie here was born in Jerusalem because we have this live streaming in the book club for people to watch. He has a BS in education and a master's.
What? No. It's a BEd.
Oh, BEd. You know, it will probably help if I put my glasses on. All right, so what's a BEd? We don't have that here.
Bachelor's in education.
Okay, I have a bachelor's in education too.
So you have a BEd.
We call, well, they said BS, Bachelor of Science.
No, it's
Or
Bachelor's
BA, maybe it's BA. I forgot. Now that I have my glasses on, I could read it properly.
Okay.
So is that elementary education or higher, older kids?
No, it's a first degree. It's equivalent to BA.
Because here in New York, I had to specify whether I was early childhood, so I chose kindergarten through 6th grade, and then there's like a secondary.
No, I can teach all grades.
Oh, that's nice.
I teach elementary though.
Awesome. That's what I did too. And a master's in Jewish history. He's an educator by profession. What grade do you teach? Do you have grades there?
I teach all grades from first grade to sixth grade.
Okay. And a Titanic researcher in his spare time. He's been fascinated by the Titanic for decades. The Jews of the Titanic originally was written in Hebrew and was his first book. And I'm going to give you co-host. That way you can do, you said you had a little presentation.
Yes,
You have to give him host in order for him to.
Oh, give him full host.
Full host for screen share.
Oh, thank you, Richard.
And then if everybody would mute up and let Ellie talk, we'll be great.
Actually, I don't want people to mute up. If someone has something to say, I want them to say, just not everyone at once.
That's great. I think when we have a nice, small, intimate meeting like this, I think that is possible. I find it more relaxing myself.
Yeah, I do have a presentation, and I don't want to go into anyone's beliefs. Is Hunter the only Jewish person on board right now?
I think so.
It might be.
Okay. Hunter, do you know Hebrew?
It's not.
Okay, good. It's good that you know only a little bit of Hebrew, because I have two presentations. I have one in Hebrew that's meant for Israelis, and I have one in English that's meant for English speakers. But I usually do the exact opposite. So it's sort of like a cheat sheet. So I have all the stuff written on the presentation in Hebrew, and you don't understand, and you don't know what's written, and I can like cheat and read from the Hebrew and speak in English. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So do you see this right now?
It says, Eli Moskowitz has started screen sharing, but it doesn't. Oh, here we go. Yep.
There we go.
Do people see it? Because I don't see what you see. The only thing I see is the presentation. I
see your full screen, the whole thing there with the.
Is that better?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, nice. Love that.
Okay, so this photo, this is the beginning of the presentation. This is a photo of me outside the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic. Who wants to guess what city, what state, what country?
Massachusetts,
Nova Scotia.
Oh, Halifax.
That's where I launched my book.
There you go.
2 years ago. I participated in my only Titanic convention ever, launching my book in 2018. That's where I met for the first time other people that are interested in Titanic. I've never met anyone interested in Titanic before. In Israel, the Titanic doesn't do it to anyone. If you talk about Titanic in Israel, they'll usually talk about Jack and Rose. And that's as much as they know. That's as much as they know. By the way, I hate that movie. I can't express it more. So in Israel, I don't have anyone to talk to about this. I wrote the book in Hebrew as an experiment, but the first thing I did after the book was published was translate it all by myself to English, and I rewrote the whole book in English. In between the Hebrew version and the English version, that's where I found out about Facebook. And thanks to Facebook, I was able to upgrade the book tenfold, thanks to people like Dave Gardner, Jill, and other people who I've met along the way, who helped me make my book a lot better. Dave, if I'm not mistaken, I even mentioned you in my acknowledgments.
Surely
do, and you got some pictures in there he told us.
Yes. So I think without Facebook, my book wouldn't have been as accurate as it is. I'll let you go through the book. Dave wants to show us something.
He's trying to show us the pictures that he. Oh, so it's the Strauss. Yeah, go back a little bit. If he's just his screen share's giving him a little. Oh, there you go. You can see the Strauss Memorial and Macy's.
You might not be able to see it because the screen share.
I think you sent me that photo.
Both of them,
yes. Yeah. Dave sent me that photo
because the screen share's on.
Okay.
Oh, right.
No, I'll explain. Dave, I asked Dave to send me that specific photo, and what page was it? Is it on, Dave? page 122, and I actually give credit to Dave Gardner on the photo. And also the one from the Memorial Park in Broadway. Oh, anyway. Okay,
Dave's awesome.
let's start the presentation. So the Titanic, blah, 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 built, sank, and so on. This is the first slide I want to show you.
Okay.
This is the first slide I want to show you. As you can see, some of the numbers here are estimates. Most of the numbers are estimates. The total passengers and crew, approximately 320 passengers. Of them, approximately 33 of them were Jewish, which is what, 10%? Ish?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure the people are still with me. In third class, you'll notice that of the 710 passengers, I have 26 names. Now, it doesn't make sense. For those who've studied history, know that this is an era of the great immigration of Jews from the old world to the new world. Within a couple of decades, over 2.7 million Jews immigrated from Eastern Europe to the United States. It doesn't make sense that on the largest ship, one of the only ships, the host has spotlighted one. One of the only ships that sailed, one of the only ships that sailed that time because of the coal strike was the Titanic, and there was room for hundreds of immigrants. It doesn't make sense that there was such a few number of Jews in steerage. One of my theories is that many of the passengers sailed under fake names because of the persecution and anti-Semitism in Western Belarus, Ukraine, and persecution, and Jews fled that area under assumed names. That is not strong enough for me for why there's such a low number of Jews in steerage. Let's carry on. You look at the crew number. I have two names that could be Jewish. One of them is the second class barber. I forgot his name right now. I have it in the book. And the second one is what?
Weichman?
No, Klein. Name's Klein. Herbert Klein. He's one of the barbers from second class. The second person on the crew list who's Jewish is the Jewish cook. Now, I'm a little bit confused about him being Jewish or not because his biography doesn't point that out. Charles Kennel was the Hebrew chef, but it's from reading his biography, it doesn't say anything about him being Jewish. It's possible that he wasn't, but if he wasn't, then there was some kind of Jewish authority watching over him on board, who I don't know who that person is. So there was some kind of Jewish authority maintaining the kosher food. It may have been Charles Kennel, it may have not been him, but someone else. I still don't have that figured out. He didn't survive, so I can't ask him. The famous photo that you see on the right is from the Olympic. It says kosher kitchen in Hebrew and in Yiddish. You see two people here. One of them is a chef. The other one is some kind of Jewish supervisor. Can you see the cursor that I'm holding?
Yes.
Okay. So that's the kosher kitchen on the Olympic. You can see the bars. Does that mean that it's locked? Does that mean that that's all there is? Is it just an oven? Where did they keep the kosher food? What kind of kosher food did they have? In the middle of the page, you see the White Star Line specimen, third class bill of fare. On the bottom, it says kosher meat supplied and cooked for Jewish passengers as desired. I made it a little bigger on the bottom here. Kosher meat supplied and cooked for Jewish passengers as desired. So that's kosher meat. What about everything else? What about kosher dairy? It doesn't say anything about that. There's absolutely no information about that. A couple of weeks ago, I participated in one of the Zoom meetings. Jill, were you there?
The one with Angelica?
The
Where
one
we
where
talked-
I asked specifically about kosher dishes?
Yes, you were asking if the first class had a kosher kitchen, or you were wondering?
One of my dreams, which I probably share with everybody else in this group right now, is diving to the wreck. But I don't want to go as a tourist. I want to go as a researcher. I want to find the kosher dishes. There were kosher dishes. These are samples of kosher dishes.
Oh my gosh.
From White Star Line, but these are later. The ones on the top, you'll see that the symbol of the White Star Line is different. That's from the 20s and the 30s.
I have that one actually on the top left.
Okay, you can see them all over the internet, these photos. I don't have them in the book. I think I don't have them in the book because of copyright issues. Maybe I have them. If I have them in the book, so I got permission to put them in the book. On the bottom, you can see these three photos are the same item. You can see the White Star Line pennant, and it says milk, kosher, and in Yiddish, the word milchik, which means milk. I found this on eBay. Someone wanted about 200 pounds for it on eBay.
Wow.
Yeah. I did not pay the money, so I've never seen it since. So there were kosher dishes on board, but from all the salvaging, and we know what the first and third and second class regular dishes look like, we have no idea what the kosher dishes look like, and I want to be the one to find them. So if I ever go down there, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, carry on. Let's look at the death toll. The funniest number on this in this table is the number of Jews buried in the Jewish cemetery. Of the 37 Jews-ish that were saved, we know of 9 Jews who were picked up by the Mackay Bennett. Is that how you pronounce it?
Mackay Bennett.
I've never pronounced it out loud before in my life.
We can learn how to pronounce things on these Zooms, which is
yeah,
great.
I mean, I see things. I don't know exactly. We have no idea how many Jews bodies were found by other steamers. We know how many bodies were brought back to Halifax. We know how many of them were buried at sea. But we know that in Fairview Lawn, there's 121 victims, Mount Olivet 19, and Baron de Hirsch, the Jewish Cemetery 10. But we also know that none of the bodies in the Baron de Hirsch Cemetery are Jewish. And the reason that I have these two in question mark is because whoever read my book and whoever knows the story, which you don't have to read my book to know the story, is that when the bodies were brought to the morgue, to the curling rink, the local rabbi from Halifax put aside 10 bodies, claimed that they were Jewish, and because he was running out of time because of the Sabbath, to make a long story short, it's possible that he took the wrong group of bodies.
Oh.
And he just took 10 bodies.
That's heartbreaking. Oh, that must have been hard for the family.
And when he came back on Sunday and he saw that his 10 bodies are still there, they said, no, you cannot take a new batch of bodies. And they told him to leave the place. And whatever happened to those 10 bodies are probably buried in Fairview Lawn. But I was there. I was at Fairview Lawn, and there are a couple of dozen unknown tombs in the Titanic section of Fairview Lawn. Now, the ones that are unknown crew members, it says unknown crew member, not on the grave on the map. But there are a few dozen unknowns in Fairview Lawn. And I believe that 10 of them are Jewish, or might be Jewish. Maybe some of them were taken to Mount Olivet. Now, I don't remember Mount Olivet very well. I have the map. It's possible that 1 or 2 of them, of the Jews, are buried there. but we'll never know unless someone decides to dig up all the unknown graves and to do something about it. I'm not going to say another word about that thing, but I do know that at least 2 of the Jews were buried at sea. 2 third-class passengers that were found by the Maccabenet, and 7 of the Jews, of the 9, you see there's a 9 here, and there's 2 here, and the 7 here, so together that's 9. They are, wait, I want to skip a minute. They are buried here. 9 bodies were found by, 9 Jewish bodies were found by the Maccabenet and identified. Jacob Birnbaum is buried in the Netherlands. By the way, not only is Jacob Birnbaum buried in the Netherlands, he's not only the only Jewish victim buried in the Netherlands, he's the only Titanic victim buried in the Netherlands. So if you live in Holland, in the Netherlands, and you want to visit the closest victim, he's the only one.
Okay.
He has a remarkable story. He's from Belgium. His family was from Belgium, but he was buried in the Netherlands because he lived in Antwerp, and the Jewish community in Antwerp buried their dead in the Netherlands and not in Belgium for religious reasons. Everyone else is buried on the continent of America, including Leopold Weiss, who was buried in Montreal, and 2 buried at sea from third class, David Lifshin and Eliezer Galinsky, and everyone else is buried in 4 buried in New York, 1 buried in Nebraska, and that's what we know about that. I want to go back a minute to the 3 cemeteries. This is Mount Olivet.
Great research.
I do not have a good photo of me at this cemetery. This is during the convention.
Is that Deanna?
So there's
Diana.
Angelica, and
There's
I see
Angelica,
Dee.
there's Diana.
And
There's
Tom, I see Tom Linsky in there, and Matt doing.
Someone wants to join the group. Okay, good. So
Yeah, you might have to let them in because you're the host now.
No problem. No problem.
Thank you.
So
Oh,
that's me.
Howard's
I'm looking
here.
at the map, reading about the victims. True story. This is the first time ever that I set foot inside a non-Jewish cemetery. Just you should know.
Wow, really? Now
Yeah,
that's because you didn't have any reason to.
I never had an opportunity. Actually, I did have an opportunity. I could have visited Oscar Schindler's grave in Jerusalem, buried in a Christian cemetery in Jerusalem.
Oh, that must have been so touching.
But I didn't.
You didn't. Oh,
I know where he's buried. I can go there anytime I want.
Wow.
We don't visit.
Wow.
Okay, anyway, where was he? So this is Mount Olivet Cemetery. This is Baron de Hirsch Cemetery. You can see the 10 tomb. This is the famous photo of the Baron de Hirsch Cemetery. You can see the 2 rows of 5, and here you see this picture was given. It was while I was writing my book. I asked Diana for a good picture of the cemetery today, and that's the photo that she sent me. And this is another one of me at the cemetery. Again, none of these are Jewish, although it's a Jewish cemetery. And the next one is Fairview Lawn Cemetery. Every one of the participants was given roses to put on the graves. I picked some of the participants picked people with names, either they knew or they were connected to, or they wanted to give it to someone with names. I deliberately put my roses on unknown victims, hoping that maybe they're Jewish.
Nice.
But you never know. It doesn't really matter. I participated, and it was emotional, and it was very, it was good that I went there. It was a very good experience for me.
Oh, and did you say you gave a talk there too to them?
You know what? Wasn't really a talk. I was asked by the organizers of the convention to give a prayer, a Jewish prayer at the cemetery.
Okay.
And I spoke to my rabbi, and I decided to give this prayer both in English and in Hebrew. I found a good English translation to the prayer that's said by Jews for the dead from Psalms. I think it's Psalm number 91, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh.
So I said it in English and in Hebrew, and I said a few other things in English and Hebrew, and it was emotional. It was good that I did it. It was I'm happy that I did it. It was very emotional, and I do it again.
Oh, wow.
Let's carry on.
Okay.
Okay, Jacob Birnbaum, which I've mentioned. This is his tomb in the Netherlands. There's a famous photo of his tomb circling the internet, which I couldn't get my the rights for in the book, but I found this photo by some cyclist that was just cycling around in Holland, and he bumped into this tomb and he took a picture. He's not Jewish or anything, and he saw this and he took the picture, and I found it on his blog, and he said I can use it in my book, and I gave him credit, and then that's that.
Wow.
So people aren't familiar with this photo.
No.
And you can see the diary, not diary,
Like a calendar?
calendar, his father's calendar. You can see it says
Wow.
April. You can see the Hebrew date, 1415, and over here it's the 28th of the Hebrew month of Nissan, which is the Hebrew date of the disaster. And he writes in Yiddish about this is the day that my son died.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna zip through. This is Emil Brandeis from Nebraska, Sinai Cantor, whose tomb is in, where did we say his tomb was?
Queens.
In Queens.
Good.
Next time I go to New York, I'm going there.
It's a very big cemetery. I know it well.
You know it well. You're taking me there. Good.
Dave's awesome. He's the best.
This watch was in his family's possession, in his wife's possession, for over a century, and it was recently sold in auction, I think about a year and a half ago. After my book was published, I mentioned the watch in my book as one of the items that was found on his body.
Wow.
He was found and buried, as you can see. The watch, the numbers are in Hebrew letters. And on this side, you see Moses with the 2 tablets.
Wow.
And the person who bought the watch at the auction was a watch museum in New York.
Whoa. A
Yeah.
watch museum?
Yeah, a watch museum in New York.
Wow.
I contacted him immediately after, and I talked to him a little bit, and I haven't talked to him since.
Wow.
Now, Ellie,
Weiss, you can see that the tomb is fairly new. It's this isn't the original tomb that he had after he died. I don't know what it looked like, but this one is fairly new. You can see on the bottom again. It says the 28th of Nisan, which is the Hebrew date, and you can see the Hebrew on the tombstone and also the English. I want to go back to Cantor. You can see that it says his name in English and in Hebrew, and it specifically says here Titanic in Hebrew, and also here it says Titanic in English. Yeah.
Wow.
The Strausses, I'm not going to talk about them. There's so much to talk about. So, yeah.
Dave took me to that park.
This is me in Macy's. This is me in Strauss Hall in Massachusetts, in Cambridge.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah,
Harvard,
Strauss Hall in Cambridge.
That's Harvard. That's on the campus, yes.
Wow.
In Harvard?
Yes. Yep.
Cambridge.
Well, yes, Cambridge is the city.
I don't know what Harvard is. All I know is that my brother lives a 15-minute bicycle away from there, and I visited him during my tour of North America 2 years ago, and he took me there.
Yes, it's Harvard University in Cambridge.
It's one of our
Harvard University in Cambridge.
That's right.
Okay. Strauss Park. Strauss Park. I had to get a very specific angle because behind me there's a homeless man.
Oh, I wonder what's going on there and all those little.
Yeah, and over here that's root beer. You can't find that in Israel.
Oh, you can't get root beer. Root beer.
Yeah, I miss root beer. Yeah, well, whatever.
Oh,
Okay.
next time you come.
Other first-class passengers that were victims is You can see the names in Hebrew, so it's sort
wow,
of like.
I love that.
Yeah, so this is Henry Harris, and this is Benjamin Guggenheim, and that's Edgar Meyer.
Oh, Henry.
And
Harris.
from second-class victims, you have Renee Levy, and you have
Ava Hart.
This is the story. Benjamin Hart is Jewish. His wife Esther is not. Neither is Eva. Now, according to Jewish law, only if the mother is Jewish, you're Jewish. So because the mother isn't Jewish, Eva is not Jewish. But her father was.
Oh.
So she has Jewish roots, but she's not Jewish. I'm going to skip to a different photo. I'm going to go back to that afterwards.
Wow, great slideshow.
Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, this one. I want to show you this photo. Anyone recognize anyone?
There's
photo?
Walter Lord, Ava Hart.
And
is that Frank X?
Yes.
Wow.
So look at that smile.
Oh, he's so happy. He's in his glory.
Yes, yes. I'm looking at that smile and saying, that's the smile that I want when I'm involved in Titanic.
What a joyful, selfless person. He just, you know, he didn't do any of this for himself or making a name. He just loved history.
These are the two bodies that were found and buried at sea from third class, David Lifshin and Eliezer Galinsky. The story about Galinsky is that he clung onto a piece of ice. I don't know how true that is, that he was found on a piece of ice.
Wow.
Yeah, so whatever.
John Lynch would know.
In the center of the photo, you can see Leah X and her son dressed in a skirt.
Oh, little baby silly.
Okay. It says here, in care of Hebrew Sheltering and Immigration Aid Society, also known as HIAS. This organization still exists today. Its main purpose is helping immigrants around the world. In the last few decades, it helps Russian immigrants in the United States, Russian immigrants in Israel, immigrants, Jewish immigrants from Muslim countries, and so on and so forth. Wow. On the bottom here, it says something in Yiddish, which means practically the same. This photo was taken at the Hebrew Sheltering and Immigration House. The only Jewish people in the photo is the Axes. Everyone else are not Jewish. These people are from Syria. I think they're from Syria. I have all their names, but they're not Jewish. But proves to show that when people had to be taken care of, people were taken care of no matter what religion they belonged to.
I love that.
And I think that's nice.
So is that in New York?
Yes,
Ellie?
that's in New York.
Okay.
That's in New York.
So have you been to that address there, Dave? Is that on your Titanic tour, this 578 East Houston, or maybe this isn't there anymore?
Probably have. I think
They've got the. I don't remember this from your tour, but it might not be on your route. I don't even know where that street is. East Houston Street.
I think that's the photographer, not the.
Okay.
Photographer's address. So.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt. So that's in the.
And by the way, Houston.
First class male survivors. Yeah. First class male survivors include. These are all Jewish, obviously. Charles Stengel, Goldenberg, Solomon, Greenfeld, Henry, and his brother, Isaac Gerald. Jewish female survivors, including Renee Harris, Tausig, Rosenbaum, Russell, Meyer, Greenfeld. Anyone ever heard of this guy over here?
No, I don't wish I could remember all the past.
Dave, you recognize this?
He made the perfumes.
How do you say that? Oh, he's the okay. Yeah, the perfumes in his.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I smelt them in Northern Ireland.
What?
I smelt them in Northern Ireland.
Oh, lucky.
Up in Coltra, which is about a couple miles north of Belfast. I took a train up there, and in the museum, they have little samples of the perfume, and you can smell them.
Wow.
Are they nice as they said it was? They smell good as they said?
What's the question?
I said, were the perfumes, they smell as nice as they said they did?
Yeah, and just like a floral kind of a scent or something, just something nice, yeah.
But I remember Bill Sauter, who I also met at one of the Titanic ones at Titanic conference that Bill Willard put on. Oh, he went on and on about how great it smelled and this and that.
Great story.
Wow, that
So, Hunter, if you're going to speak, you should turn your video off because we're either getting one or the other.
I've been muted.
Not mute
I
anything.
think you guys should be able to mute and unmute yourselves.
Yeah, I don't want to mute other people, so if anyone wants to say something, they can. I did not smell the perfumes, but both of these photos, I have copyright over them because I took these photos when the Titanic visited Israel for the first and last time ever, the premiere tour, whatever they call it these days, in Tel Aviv.
Wow.
And my book in Hebrew was about to be published, and contacts were made, and I actually worked for them. I toured. I was a tour guide at their event. So
neat.
they set up a room for my research, the Jews of the Titanic, and I got to see all the stuff, and I took these pictures of his. So anyway, he's Jewish. He survived, obviously. This is his tombstone in Manchester, I think, with his wife. He died young.
Oh, this is great. If anybody wants to look, you guys probably can't see Dave because he's got the Strauss Memorial in his background now.
I see him.
Oh, you can see him? Okay.
Yeah.
That's great, Dave.
Yeah, it's not coming through on the recording because.
Oh, okay.
And for those of you who are wanting to comment, if everybody leaves their microphones open, the video just jumps all over the place.
But we can pin his video, which
what I'd like to do is if everybody just keeps their microphone.
But he wants us to talk.
Well, I know what Richard is saying. He's saying people should mute themselves now, and then when someone wants to talk, they can unmute themselves to talk.
But Ellie, you can pin yourself where it just stays on you. The host can pin you, but we don't have host status right now. Well, but you can pin yourself, which means it won't jump around to the different pictures. It'll just stay on you.
We could take a break from the presentation so people can show things around. I'm going to do that right now.
This is really awesome.
Yes. What did Dave want to show us?
We were just looking at his background.
I was just testing it because I muted myself, so I was wondering if my video was any better. Not really.
I've got something to share.
Trying to do that?
Yeah, I was trying to do that, but I muted myself. Didn't help.
And this is the one in Hebrew. It's the same photo, but it's a different, it's the same book, but in Hebrew. Yeah. Anyway, let's go back. What? Hello.
Okay, can you guys see my kosher knife?
Where is it from?
Olympic.
How'd you get it?
I got it from White Star Memories. I also have the same thing that you showed. I've got the kosher saucer. I have a bunch of kosher plates from the Kiwi too.
Can you show me?
Yeah. Hang on. I'm actually in my office right now.
Oh, neat. I've got you spotlighted so other people can talk, but it'll stay on you.
You have a knife in your office?
Here's from the Queen Elizabeth.
You work on a Sunday?
No, this is not Israel. We don't do that here. I know you guys work on Sundays in Israel, right?
Yeah, but not during the pandemic.
Yeah. Oh, because I have customers in Israel, and we get the emails on Sundays.
Yeah, we work on Sundays. Oh, wait, what ship is this from?
Queen Elizabeth. This is from March 20. This was Saturday, March 26, 1960.
I'm not going to ask if it's a real replica or a fake replica.
It's not a replica.
I'm not gonna ask.
Your replica.
This is 100% authentic.
Wow. I'm
Oh.
And then I've got another one, which I love. This one's a little bit older. This is from 1953, also from the Queen Elizabeth.
Oh, wow.
David.
Yeah. Kosher food was starting to be served on ocean liners beginning the end of the first decade of the 20th century.
Oh, wow. Look at
Like
those.
2000, started 2005, 2009. So Titanic was actually one of the first ships to have kosher food. It wasn't the first ship, but that was the beginning. That was like, it started only a few years before that.
Hang on.
So you keep everything at your office there, Hunter, I guess, to keep it
Typically,
safe.
it is locked up, but due to the pandemic, it is not. But if you give me one moment, I have a bunch of kosher plates here from the.
Wow, this is great. It's like show and tell time with
I wish
Ellie.
I had access to the rest of my stuff.
Hunter came down from the mountain today.
I haven't even opened it yet because of the pandemic. I usually store it. But
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Wait, what line is it from?
Canard.
What year?
I'm gonna say 1969 on because this is from the QE2.
Oh,
Do you use these
wow.
dishes?
I have not used them yet. I do have a bunch of kosher dishes from the SS United States, which I do use because it's a possibility my great-grandparents used them when they traveled aboard.
Wow.
Well,
Oh, thank you so much for sharing all that with us.
Hunter, you make me envious. The only dishes that I have is first and third class replicas. It says authentic replica, so I'm guessing that it's an authentic replica. The famous first class with the blue ones on the rim. So
Oh, hang on.
I use them only on the Passover, only for the Seder. I use them once a year, and that's so cool.
This is an original Greek cake, just sitting on my desk, because where else should it be?
Cool.
What's that from?
That's from the Olympics. I believe they're from the a la carte restaurant. I don't remember, but it's a Greek cake pattern.
Oh my God. Envy.
You should open a restaurant, like a themed kosher star line, shipping line restaurant theme.
These are those. Unfortunately, on its way here, it did not make it. But these are those silk things. I could have a whole. I mean, I've got.
Oh,
Bunch of-
Hunter, we got to have you in for a Zoom. You can do a little show and tell.
Yes.
I would love to, but I'm not. I don't want to take it away. So, Ellie, it's back to you. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Oh,
no problem.
I
Hey,
think he
I
loved
loved it.
him. We love
Yes.
seeing that.
I want to go back to my presentation.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Do you
No,
still have screen share?
You need to make him host again.
Wait. You need to make me host again.
Yeah.
Where was I?
There
Yeah.
we go.
Screen share.
Does the screen share show up when you're co-host or no?
Do you see it yet?
Yep, we do.
Okay, where was we? Do you see this one?
Yes.
Okay. The one on the left is Mayor Moore and his mother Bella. 5 years after the Titanic. This is he was 7 years old ish, and this is his bar mitzvah. This is the only child survivor that I know of that I actually have a picture of his bar mitzvah.
So
So
is
that's
bar
about-
mitzvah like around 13?
13, yes. So this is like
Okay.
5-6 years after the disaster, and that's his mother.
Okay, all right.
She was a widower, obviously.
Oh, somebody.
Okay, the axes.
Aw.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
She's so young. How old was Leah? I forgot.
18, 19?
Yeah, she is a young mama.
Yeah. Do you know the story about the Titanic restaurant in Manchester?
No.
Where?
Tell us. No. Do you know it?
Dave, what do you know about this one?
This one, nothing. Niente.
Niente. Okay, so
Niente.
Abraham Joseph Hyman, a third-class survivor, Jewish, made it back to New York on the Carpathia, and he's walking down the Jewish areas of New York City, and he just couldn't believe the amount of kosher delis and restaurants in New York. So he decided to go back to England. He went back to his hometown, Manchester, and he opened the first kosher restaurant in Manchester in 1912.
Oh, okay.
He called his
Wow.
restaurant Titanic's, and they ship all around the UK, and they have kosher foods, and it's a restaurant, and it's catering, and all that stuff. And it closed about a year ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
We know
Thank
Gus
you.
Cohen, right? We know Gus Cohen, the cat.
Yes, Gus the Cat Cohen.
Yes. We know him.
Well, but other people might not know.
Third-class passenger. He survived World War I, World War II, a car accident, a whole bunch of other stuff.
He's a cat because he had 9 lives.
9 lives. Someone showed me this photo. He told me that this person is Gus Cohen. I don't have it proven yet, but I'm leaving it here for the time being. Okay, my favorite Titanic movie, obviously, is the 1943 movie.
Yeah, the propaganda. Never saw it.
What? What?
I've never seen it. The Nazi propaganda.
Oh, you gotta
Never
see it,
tried it?
Dave. You gotta
Yeah,
see
but
it.
You have to see
Awesome.
You have to see the movie. Of all the movies about Titanic, it's not the most accurate. It's not accurate at all. Most of the people in the movie are not real passengers. You know, not real people, just like Jack and Rose. What I like about this movie is the setting. You see, this movie took place during World War II, during the Holocaust, while millions of Jews were being slaughtered by the Nazis. The Nazis actually took their time and made a propaganda movie against the British. The idea of the movie was that the British were greedy, and because of the British, a whole bunch of German immigrants died on the Titanic. That's basically what the storyline of the movie is. What I like about the movie is that most of the extras in the movie are from the Wehrmacht, are from the German army. And the movie is in German, and there's this one scene that's based on a true story from the Titanic of the separation between the men and the women on the Titanic. There's this one scene in the movie where they're separating the men from the women, but because it's in German, so they say the texts in German, and it's chilling to think that any one of those people might have actually done it in real life to the Jews in the Holocaust, of the separation, and women on one side, men on the other side, and here they are doing it as a movie. That moment in the movie made me realize that this is my favorite movie as a Jew. Should I show you the scene?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do the scene.
Yeah, let's do it.
Stop share. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Okay. You know what? Let's do share. Wait. If I do share screen, you can see what I'm doing. You can see what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Yep. You're looking at little movie clips.
That's the Schnell scene. Let's see if it works.
While we're waiting, I should mention that when I met Hunter Landau, he was clean shaven.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
this is the pandemic beard.
What? I didn't hear what you said. What?
Hunter was clean shaven when I met him. Now look at him.
Wow, that's neat.
So I want to remind you, this scene, you see the officers, all the people, all the extras are German soldiers, and they were taken to the set as extras. Now, maybe the people that have roles with text aren't actually extras, but to know that this was taking place during the Holocaust is, for me, is chilling.
I hear it. I can't see it.
We can. You might need to choose a different screen for us to see, because I think in the share screen it lets you choose which screen we see.
Yeah, we're hearing it. We're not seeing it. So you
If
need
you
to-
click on
No, you're not
share,
seeing it?
if you click on share screen, it might give you an option of which one of your screens to
Oh,
show
because I
us.
have a whole bunch of screens on.
Yeah, so that'll, you get to click on which window you want us to look
I'm
at.
going to close the rest of the windows.
And make sure you make sure you click share computer audio. It's a little.
Share computer audio. How do I do that?
Under
There's a little
Share
under,
screen.
the little
Share
arrow
computer
by
sound.
Yep, share computer sound. And then if that window is not popping up, just start it, pause it.
Does this work now?
Oh, here we go. Yep.
Alle Männer auf die Steuerbordseite. Alle Frauen und Kinder nach Backbord. Beeilen! Schneller, schneller!
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, so again, Schnell is a Nazi thing. You know, separating men from women is a Nazi thing, and here it is, Titanic. So yeah.
Yeah.
So that was.
I don't mean to interrupt. I have a
Right
question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but on the real Titanic, weren't the I keep forgetting, weren't the men at one end and families and the women were on the other end?
In steerage, yeah.
In steerage, if my memory doesn't, if I remember correctly, the steerage was 3 sections. There was the women, there was the men, and there was the families.
Okay.
But that's just for sleeping arrangements. During the day, they can mingle. They
Okay.
they shared meals and stuff. What happened during the night? Was there access between the women, the men, and the family sections of steerage? I don't know.
Okay. So now I understand the difference. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well,
I was just curious. I wanted to make sure I understood the distinction because I thought they had been all separated on the real ship. So, all right, I got you. Okay, go ahead.
Again, don't forget, it's just a movie, and it's just, you know.
I know. I know it's just a movie. I got that.
Okay. Okay. Where was me? Okay, let's go back.
I understand that some of that movie footage was put onto the Night to Remember, the Walkie Lords movie.
Yeah. I was gonna say that also.
I think I heard that also. The fate of the ship, that the Germans used for the movie was bombed by the British Air Force 2 days before or after Hitler committed suicide. And after the movie, that ship was used to move prisoners of war from one place to another. And the story that I was told is that the Cape Arcona was bombed by the British, and on board were hundreds of prisoners of war from the camps, including hundreds of Jews who were gunned down by the Germans who didn't allow them to swim to shore.
Yeah,
So
that's what I heard.
ironically, more Jews died on the Capricorn than on the Titanic.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's actually a documentary on that film too, isn't there, by History Channel too. Sorry if my voice. There's a documentary on that video on the History Channel called Titanic. I think it's called Nazi Titanic. I think it's, and it's also on DVD as well.
Actually, to add on what you just said, when I was in Halifax, I met the author of someone who wrote the book about the documentary.
Oh, okay, that's good.
And we traded books, and we have a photo together. I'll try to see if I can find the photo.
What was this book about exactly? Was it called the Nazi Titanic?
I'll show you what the book looks like, and you tell me what you know. Okay, this guy over here. Do you see him? I didn't do.
No, we can't see your screen.
I didn't do share. That you see this person over here?
Yes.
Okay, he wrote a book about the movie. I'm gonna try to see if I can find a photo of him with the book. Just a minute. I did not plan on this. I can't find it right now. No, I don't have it here right now with me. Sorry. Anyway, moving right along. Let's go back to the. Okay. I want to do share. Here we are. Okay, where were we? Share screen. You see the screen?
Yeah.
Hello? Okay, so let's go back to the screen. That's the scene. For the Jews among us, writing a book about a specific group on the Titanic doesn't mean so much. I mean, if someone writes a book about, I don't know, the Canadians on the Titanic, or the French people on the Titanic, or the Chinamen on the Titanic, it would be a book about a group of people that have some kind of ethnicity in common. But what makes the Jewish passengers of the Titanic special is that we have specific issues to deal with by Jewish law. One of the examples is the kosher food. Am I still on share?
Yep.
Okay, one of the examples is the kosher food. So when I wrote my book, I gave a whole chapter of the book about what kosher food is, what it had to do with Titanic, what the history is, who ate the kosher food, who didn't. Guggenheim didn't. He specifically wrote about the exotic non-kosher foods that he ate. So the kosher issue is a specific issue for Jewish people. Another specific issue about Jews that I don't know if it exists in other religions is the female widow in case of death of the husband. In Jewish religion, when a person dies, so his spouse can remarry, male or female, it's irrelevant right now. But also in Jewish religion, if the male dies, but his body isn't found, then according to Jewish law, the wife, the widow, cannot remarry because she is still married, because we need to produce a body for her to be able to get married again. Hello?
Wow.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
If we forget about the Titanic for a minute, which is impossible for Titaniacs like us, but let's try anyway. If a married male, decides to run away from home, and it happens every once in a while, the woman cannot remarry because she is still married. So you need to find the husband. He needs to give her a divorce, and then she can remarry.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So they have to sign the get then before they can get remarried?
What?
They have to sign a get before they get remarried?
Yes, she has to. The Hebrew term for a divorce is get, G-E-T, get. That's what it's called.
So the husband died on the Titanic. She what? Have to sign a.
Wait. If a guy goes to war, like World War I, a lot of people were killed, and a lot of people never came home. So their wives couldn't remarry because the bodies were never found. Because maybe he didn't die, maybe he ran away, maybe he decided to join the Germans or whatever. So maybe she's still married. So if we go back to the Titanic, if a male dies on the Titanic, his widow can remarry only if there's definite proof that he died.
Wow, what kind of proof do they need?
Wait. So, a while after the Titanic sank, all the widows went to their local rabbis, and every case had to be dealt with, and they had to decide can the widow remarry or not. In a case where the bodies were found, let's say Sinai Cantor's body was found, so obviously his wife Miriam can remarry, no problem. The Strausses didn't have a problem because both died. But what do you do in steerage where the bodies were never found? Can their wives remarry? So one of the cases was famous because the rabbi who dealt with the question wrote his answer in a book in Hebrew. So what you see right now is part of the book. On the top it says the number of page or whatever. Over here, this is the word Titanic, and there's the question. She's asking, can she remarry? And he gives a very long answer. It's a 10 page long answer. I went out of share. It's a 10-page long answer explaining why she can remarry, although the body was never found. One of the aspects that they use is that all of the survivors were on the Carpathia. No other survivor ever made it anywhere else, not by any ship, not by rowing, not by swimming, not anywhere, not anyhow else. So if a person was on the Titanic and he's not on the Carpathia, he died. So that specific widow was told that she can remarry. And that's the end of the story. We don't know if she remarried or not, but we do know that that rabbi who lived in Europe at the time, that specific rabbi immigrated to the United States, lived in Vermont for a while, and that's where he wrote his book. So when I wrote about the Jews of the Titanic, I didn't only write about who the passengers were, what they did, who they mingled with, did they or did they not survive. I wrote about specific issues that involve the Jewish people, the kosher food, the remarrying issue, burial issues. Can a Jew be buried in a non-Jewish cemetery? I mean, these are questions that rabbis today deal with. These are questions that military rabbis deal with. You know, if there's a platoon of soldiers and one of the soldiers is Jewish and they all get killed, can the Jewish soldier be buried with the non-Jewish soldiers? It's a question that rabbis have to deal with on a I don't want to say daily basis, but they deal with these kind of questions all the time. And these are the questions that I dealt in my book.
Awesome.
Awesome.
I wish Gina was here because I was reading that the chef, the kosher chef, was from South Africa.
Yes, he was. I mentioned before that his biography doesn't show anything about him being Jewish. The fact that he's from South Africa proves to me that what is a Jewish chef from South Africa doing on the Titanic? I mean, it just didn't make any sense to me.
Charles Kennel, is that not a Jewish name? Because I was
No,
reading
it's
this, it looked
No,
like Charlie Haas research from the TIS. The
let's go back.
kosher cook who went down with Titanic was on this article. You probably saw it.
Do you see this one? Do you see this one right now?
Yeah, it's got the people that played the Strausses in The Night to Remember.
Okay,
And
so this is Meyer Zelinger who played Mr. Strauss. This is Helen Meisner who played Ida Strauss. This is Harold Goldblatt who played. Anyone? Guggenheim. So these three actors played Jewish passengers. Am I correct?
Yep.
Okay, all three actors are Jewish.
Oh, wow, that's neat.
Yes, I did a little bit of research.
Oh, that's great research.
Yes, he's Jewish, she's Jewish, and he's Jewish. By the way, in A Night to Remember, someone also plays Edith Russell. You see her like in two scenes in the movie. One when she wants to go back to her room, and one when they're in the lifeboat.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the actress that played her is not Jewish. I'm just saying, because Edith Russell was Jewish.
Let's have my lucky pig here.
Yeah, it was a lucky pig, exactly. I saw the lucky pig when I was in England.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yes.
wow. Did you get to hear it? I hear they play it.
No. I was
it's a weird sound. It's on YouTube if you ever want to hear it.
I was in London in 2012, and I went to the Maritime Museum just to see the Titanic section. That's the only thing I saw there. And I saw Jacob Birnbaum's watch, which you saw in one of my slides, and I saw the pin that Strauss wore. That was for his he didn't wear it. It was for his memorial, and I saw the pig, and I took pictures of it.
Wow.
And I even had a picture of. I asked someone to take a picture of me in the museum with the Titanic in the background. And when I had my book, when I wrote my book, I wanted to get the rights. I didn't want to have any problems with copyrights. So I contacted the museum, and they told me that I am not permitted to use that photo because one is not allowed to take pictures in their museum.
Yeah.
So I told them, listen, I'm publishing my book in Hebrew in Israel. No one cares about your museum in Israel. They said, okay, as long as I sell my book only in Israel. And so I did. So in my Hebrew book, in the book that I wrote in Hebrew, I have the picture of me in the museum, in the Maritime Museum in Greenwich, but I couldn't put it in my book in English because of the copyright issue.
Wow.
But it doesn't say that I can't show you the picture.
Let's see.
There it is.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, that's you can see Edith Russell in the background. You can see Jacob Birnbaum, and you can see his watch, which I took a photo of that watch, and I have in my book without asking.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I wasn't permitted to use that photo in my but you know, they allowed me to use it in my book in Hebrew, and I'm allowed to show it on Facebook, I think. I hope.
Yay.
Hope I don't get into trouble. Are you gonna be? Is this gonna be on YouTube?
Yes.
Oish, I might get.
Well, hopefully they won't watch it. I think.
And even if they do, I'm asking for, you know.
They'll understand.
It's publicity for them.
I think you're allowed to show a photo of something that you own, aren't you?
No, but I wasn't allowed to take that photo in the first.
Oh, that's right. You weren't.
But I didn't actually take the photo. Someone else took the photo. Yeah. It's a photo of me.
If it's a problem, and if it becomes a problem, I can always just edit that photo out or put something over it.
He's the master editor.
Yeah. Yeah, I did so much. I put so much effort in copyright issues. I mean, I contact every single photo in my book. I give credit to whoever needs to give credit to, and if it's public domain, I say it's public domain. And if I couldn't get the permission, I just didn't put the photo in the book. So I tried to be okay with that. And if I goofed up on this one, then I'm sorry.
I think in the YouTube it comes under the fair use. So you know,
I hope so.
I think we're.
I'm just showing you a photo inside a book that, you know, it's my book, whatever.
I think.
Well, we would see it if we had your book. All the people like us that have your book. We'll
None of
see
you
it
are going to
anyway.
read the book in Hebrew anyway, so it doesn't.
I know.
We'd have to have a Hebrew copy, which I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not Jewish.
Which you would have to show us.
Okay, let's go back to that's.
Welcome, Mary and Katie. We have a couple
Thank
new
you.
people join us.
Thank you so much. It took me a long time to get this to
And
work.
Howard, glad you guys
The
could join
last
us.
link finally worked.
Who just joined us?
Mary
hi.
Spartacus and Howard Fitzgerald.
I've been trying since 2 o'clock.
And Katie.
2 o'clock here. It's 10:30.
Yeah, I've been trying for about an hour and a half here. Trying to
Oh,
get
sorry.
I don't know.
The
I
link
had
is
to
giving her a
download
hard
Zoom
time.
again and run it and several times. Password wouldn't work. I tried to get into hold of support. It was just a mess.
Hi, Mary. You missed the fun part, but
I know, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I showed a little clip from the Nazi movie.
Oh, you did?
That's my favorite movie.
Really? Interesting. I haven't seen it yet.
You have
I've heard about it, and every so often it's on TV, and it's on a channel I can't get. And I don't know if I really want to watch it, because it's like, I don't know if I want to watch that kind of propaganda from such an evil time in history, and I don't know.
We can
make that movie so good.
We can watch it next Wednesday for the movie night, because I have it.
I think I have it on Disc on Key.
I have a problem with anything that's dark or anything that's scary or horror or really impactful, because I can't get it out of my head and I have nightmares. I have to be very careful.
But you're a Titaniac, and you have nightmares from the Titanic scene.
True.
That's true.
Okay.
I have problems, because if I get upset, then I get physically sick. So I have to be very, very careful about what I watch.
I want to say something about the Cameron movie. People ask me, is the Titanic, you know, people in Israel, they ask me, is the Titanic movie your favorite movie? Now, in Israel, they only know that one movie, the Cameron movie. That's all they know. When I'm on Israeli TV, they put Celine Dion in the background, because they think that represents Titanic. So they ask me, is the Titanic movie my favorite movie? I tell them that the Titanic movie isn't my favorite Titanic movie. I hate that movie. I watch it sometimes because it's fascinating to see the sequence and the sinking and the ship and the sailing and the boiler rooms and everything like that. But if Cameron would have made a movie without fictional characters, like A Night to Remember, that movie would have been perfect for people like me. I can understand that he had to put in a fake love story in the movie, which I don't like. There's this one scene when they leave the cargo hull and the lookouts look at them, and then they look and then they see the ice. It makes you think that Jack and Rose caused the lookouts to miss the iceberg.
It does. I noticed that too. I felt that same. Hey, there's me in the background of Dave's picture.
I think it was James. Yeah, I think it was James.
I remember thinking that too. Why are they doing
why
that?
They didn't see it right away.
Was that the Guggenheim Museum?
Yes.
Yeah,
you know that they have a Lego set of that?
Wow.
Oh, that would be
They have a Lego
fun.
set of the Guggenheim
Really?
Museum. Yes.
You know what's really cool? Since you mentioned Lego set, they did a Lego of Olympic at our museum, and I have a picture of it. I don't know how to share it on here.
Your local museum or that maritime
Yeah, our local.
museum?
It was in Kalamazoo. It was really cool. I took a picture of it. I have it still. It's on one of my flash drives.
I was talking about
They also
the
did.
museum made that by that 13-year-old boy. Is that?
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah,
Terry, I saw that.
It's in It's in the Pigeon Forge Museum now.
Yeah. They also did a Lego set of my town from the 1950s. It was really amazing.
Wow.
And I took pictures of that too. I mean, it's a huge, like, it's like bigger than my bed type situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I want one of those.
Lego town.
Now, this museum is 1 or 2 degrees of
digress, but-
separation because this is Solomon Guggenheim, who is the brother of Benjamin. But yes, this is the Guggenheim Museum, as in the Benjamin we know. The same family.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the same thing.
Well, I have a night tour. I have a night tour.
Wasn't it his daughter that started it? Dave?
Doctor?
No, daughter
No, it's his brother, Solomon R. Guggenheim.
started it.
There were 5 brothers. There's
Oh,
also
okay.
Simon.
Because I thought something about she was a big art collector and that's how it started.
Oh, no, that was the Whitney, Alva Vanderbilt Whitney, who founded the American wing for the Met, which is nearby. But there's
A lot of stuff is changing on my screen. Is that happening on purpose?
Yes, that's happening
Okay.
on purpose. That's me.
Okay.
Because he's doing a screen share.
Okay.
I
I wish I understood the Hebrew because
know. No, I explained. It's a cheat sheet.
Okay.
I have 2 presentations, one in English, one in Hebrew. The one in English I do for Israelis, so it's a cheat sheet, and the one in Hebrew I do for non-Hebrew speaking, so it's a cheat sheet for me. So I can read what it says, and people don't know what it says.
Gotcha.
Okay, so that's on purpose.
Have
Can
you watched
anyone
Something
recognize
About a Night
any
to
of these
Remember?
4 people?
Can someone kind of give me a short recap of what I missed so I can kind of join the conversation more?
Yeah, just a second.
Thanks.
Have you watched Something About a Night to Remember?
Wait.
You guys remember that? Oh, come on. I hate this stupid thing.
Okay, see that, Mary?
Yes.
Somebody
Mary?
switches the thing.
Thank you, Eli.
that Terry?
Ellie. First of all, he pronounces it Ellie.
Okay.
Ellie Moskowitz.
Ellie instead of Eli. Okay, gotcha.
Okay, Mary.
In a night to remember, there are a couple of characters that aren't real. You remember after the scene after the Strausses? Then there's that couple that says the girl says that the guy says you're old. She's old. You're young. That couple. I don't think
It's based on a true story.
Huh?
It's based on a true story.
I know, but those two they're not real. They're still not a real couple.
Okay. Also the guy that puts his son and daughters with the mothers also I think is not a true story.
Yeah. That's. I mean, so they're. I mean, I'm just saying.
that's
and
just,
also that other film, the one with Clifton Webb. When
Yes.
that's BS. And that film is totally inaccurate. That film doesn't get near the hate the Cameron film gets.
Here's my thing. I'm just going to play it out for you. If we had a historically accurate movie, it wouldn't be a movie, it'd be a documentary, right?
so
Even a documentary.
Right?
So what's wrong with
It would
the
be nice if
documentary?
we had a documentary movie, but
Yes.
we really
No,
don't.
it's a movie. That's why it's like you told me before about the Nazi movie. It's just
Yeah.
a movie.
Mary,
Yeah.
the difference between what Cameron did
I'm
and
here.
what A Night to Remember did is that A Night to Remember tried to be accurate.
I know.
Yes, he added a few
Right.
schmaltzes on the
Right.
side, but it was accurate. The movie from 1953,
Yeah.
Titanic movie with the
Mhm.
couple.
Clifton
Stanley.
Webb and Robert Stanwyck.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
movie is also like the Cameron movie. It's
Mhm.
it's the
It doesn't
Titanic.
really get the same hate.
They
as
took
Cameron
they
movie.
took a family story and they put it on the setting of Titanic.
Right.
But what the Nazi movie did is that he took the propaganda, what Goebbels did, he took the anti-British hatred that they had, the propaganda, onto the Titanic, but they didn't do it as this is what really happened. This is propaganda. What Cameron did was
But I don't take Cameron's movie as
taking this
that, though.
tragedy. what camera did is I'm taking this tragedy and turning it into a blockbuster. That's two different things.
Well, so what? I just take it as a movie.
Okay, we're getting off the subject. I was wondering what I missed when you're talking.
Okay.
What is it that we missed?
Mary, I'll try to
in a
approach from a
nutshell.
different angle. I'll try to approach from a different angle, okay?
Okay.
You know why else I can't stand the Titanic movie?
No, that's not what I was asking. I'm asking what I missed when you were discussing your presentation.
The second reason why I can't stand the Titanic movie is as opposed to other when I'm referring to the Cameron movie. The reason I can't stand the Cameron movie is as opposed to other Titanic movies, there's one or two scenes that are very uncomfortable for me to watch with my teenage daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? None of the other Titanic movies have that problem.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
It was important for me to say.
Respect my view. That I can watch it. I respect what you say. Just respect what I think. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he was just giving his opinion as the speaker.
Okay. Again, I
watched.
So no, here's my question, Ellie.
Yes.
When you started the Zoom meeting,
yes,
I missed all of your discussion. Was it only about the Nazi Titanic movie, or was there something else about the Jews on the ship, or was there something else I missed?
I'll show you.
I just want a nutshell of what I missed.
Okay, I'll tell you what you missed. You missed the fact that I launched my book in 2018 during a Titanic conference in Halifax, Canada. It was the first time in my life where I actually met other people that are into Titanic, because in Israel, I'm the only person that cares about Titanic.
Okay.
Like I said before, in Israel, all they care about is Jack and Rose. So when I was in Canada, I actually met people that I finally was able to talk with people about Titanic. The photo that you see a photo, right? Do you see the screen?
Yep.
Okay. The bottom photo is me at the Jewish cemetery.
Okay.
The photo before that is me and Angela and Diana and a whole bunch of other people at Mount Olivet Cemetery.
Okay.
And this is a picture of me putting roses on unidentified victims in Fairview Lawn Cemetery.
Okay.
The reason I dove into that is because I was explaining about the death toll and the percentages of how many Jews were saved compared to how many were lost and so on. The fact that all 10 victims in the Jewish cemetery are not Jewish, not a single one of them.
Wow.
I also talked before that about the kosher issue. I showed plates and the other items, White Star Line, but not from the Titanic era. This is from the 20s and the 30s. I talked about the kosher issue. We talked about the victims. This is a tombstone of a Jewish victim in Holland, in the Netherlands. This big word over here is Titanic.
I also want to mention that, sorry to interrupt, but this is recorded, Mary, so you can go back and watch this.
Oh, good. Thank you.
He's almost been talking for 2 hours.
Thanks, Jill.
You're welcome.
Okay. After I launched my book in Halifax, I visited my brother in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He took me to Strauss Hall in Harvard, we said. And from there, I went to visit my aunt in New Jersey, and she took me to Macy's and to Strauss Park in New York.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I saw a little bit of Titanic. Again, in Israel, there's nothing to see. So
right.
I wanted to hook up with Dave, but I didn't, and I regret that I didn't, and I hope to next time. Dave, I'm forcing Dave to take me to Sinai Cantor's tombstone in Queens.
Okay.
We talked a little bit about the victims, but not so much. We talked about the perfumes the
perfumes. Oh,
some of us.
That's one of my favorites.
The owner of these perfumes was Jewish.
Okay.
We talked about this kid's bar mitzvah. He survived the Titanic and he was bar mitzvah 5 years later. We talked a little bit about the axes. We talked about the first kosher restaurant in Manchester that's called Titanic's. It was established by a Titanic survivor. We talked about the Nazi movie. We talked about a little bit about A Night to Remember. This is just me talking, which obviously is something that I like doing. This is me signing books, which I like doing. Let's see. Yeah, I wanted to show you this one. Can anyone recognize anyone on this page?
The one on the far left looks familiar.
Anybody?
Yeah, the one on the far left looks familiar to me.
Okay, so every once in a my book was written a few years ago, but ever since, every once in a while, I go online and I search for more information about the Jewish passengers that I previously don't know. Recently, like in the last few weeks, I found photos of 4 victims that I haven't seen before.
Okay.
So these photos I don't have in my book. I don't talk so much about these victims. This is John Bauman. This is Benjamin Foreman, who, by the way, is mentioned in On a Sea of Glass.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the story about anti-Semitism on the Titanic from Sea on Glass?
Oh, yeah.
I haven't read that book yet. I want to.
Okay, I'm in the middle of reading that book, and one of the questions as a Jewish researcher that I asked myself and didn't have an answer was there any anti-Semitism on the Titanic?
There's anti-Semitism everywhere.
What?
Unfortunately, it's everywhere, even on the
Okay.
Titanic.
Well, I never had proof that there was any anti-Semitism on the Titanic.
There's probably whispers, but maybe not outright segregation or anything. You know what I mean?
So On a Sea of Glass, I spoke to one of the co-authors,
Bill.
Bill.
Bill Wormstead? Okay.
Bill, yeah. I spoke to him after I read that specific part. There was a female first-class passenger whose name I'm not going to say, who met Benjamin Foreman. She did not know that he's Jewish. She met him in line at the purser's office on sailing day. And the person in front of them was Jewish. His name is not mentioned on A Sea of Glass. And she tells Foreman, who she hasn't met before, she tells Foreman an anti-Semitic remark about the Jewish passenger in front of them.
Wow.
Foreman, who's Jewish, did not respond. Later, he meets her again on the ship, and she offers to dine with him. And he tells her that she doesn't want to dine with a Jewish man. And then she realizes that he himself was also Jewish, and then they talk about what she said, and she felt regret about the fact that she said what she said, and that's the end of the story. And that's all I know. And that's from A Sea on Glass. I asked Bill for more information. He'll see if he can find any more. So this is Benjamin Foreman. This is John Bauman. This is Herman Klaber. And this is Erwin Levy. All 4 of them are from first class. You see the number 1? That's first class.
Okay.
Okay. These are photos that I haven't seen before, and I just wanted to share with you guys.
Thank you so much.
That's the highlights of my presentation. But we can talk about, what we saw. We could talk about other things. We could talk about what you want to talk about.
Well, first of all, thank you for putting on that amazing presentation. That
is incredible.
It was wonderful and and all your research. How many years of research did you put in?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, it all started when I was studying for my 2nd degree in Jewish history. And one of the courses that I took, this was maybe 20 years ago. One of the courses I took was Jewish American from the beginning of the 20th century, kind of something. And we all had to write a paper about any topic that has to do with Jewish Americans from the beginning of the 20th century. And since I was a Titanic fanatic ever since I can remember, I asked my professor if I could write about the Jews of the Titanic. So he thought about it for a while, and then he said, "Okay, do your best." So I did, and after I graduated, I decided I went over to the dean, and I said, "Hey, I can turn this into something more than just a paper." So he suggested that I should write a book, which I did in Hebrew. It took me a few years. It took me maybe 2 years from the moment that I started writing until it was published. The publication of the book coincided, it was in 2014, it coincided with the arrival of the Titanic premier artifact in Tel Aviv. It was the first time that the Titanic visits Israel. So obviously I was in contact with them. I was a tour guide at their, it wasn't a museum, what was it? A display, what do you call it these days? Exhibit, yep. Exactly. I was a tour guide at the exhibit. I got complaints from the organizers that I talked too much, but the people that I guided were more than happy. After I finished my book and it was publicized, I decided to write it in English because I know that there would be a lot of non-Hebrew Jewish readers abroad, mainly in the United States, Canada, England. So I started writing it in English, and then I realized that I can't do this without meeting people. So I set myself out on Facebook, and that's how I really got involved in Titanic. Because then all of a sudden I'm a member of all these groups. Because again, in Israel, I joke around a lot about the fact that I am the president of the Israeli Titanic Society. We're one member.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So actually, there recently, I think only last week, only preparing for this meeting, I decided to open a Hebrew page about the Titanic on Facebook. So right now I'm the only member, and you know, maybe someday other Israelis would want to, you know, learn more about the subject in Hebrew. A lot of times in the media, in Israeli media, and you probably see this also in other countries, a lot of times the word Titanic can mean catastrophe. So like on the political level, you'll see politicians talking about their opponents, about them being the captain of Titanic, or, you know, things like that. So a lot of times you'll read an article and the word Titanic appears that has nothing to do with Titanic, but it's just there. So it makes me feel good that sometimes Israelis see the word Titanic here and there. There was an article a few years ago about one of the reasons that so many people died on the Titanic was that the British were too polite. And this was an article in Hebrew about you know how Israelis are not polite. So it's like so many people died because they were polite. This is an article in Israel. And it's like, it's not exactly the kind of exposure that I want Israelis to see. Anyway, so I decided to translate the book to English. And as I was writing and editing and all that stuff, I was offered the opportunity to launch it during a convention in Halifax, which I did. And I must say that it was one of my best experiences of my life, seeing Titanic people, talking with Titanic people, visiting the cemeteries. And again, Israel is very far from anything Titanic. The closest thing would probably be England to me. You know, I was in England. I went to the Maritime Museum. I did not go to Southampton. I should have gone to Southampton. I'm supposed to go to Southampton someday. I mean, I will someday. Maybe also Belfast. Yes. When I go to America again, and I know I will, it's a matter of time, if my wife permits me to. There's so much to see, so many people that I have to see. I have to see Dave. Shelley Binder invited me over if I'm ever in the area, and I'm sure there will be other people that if I ever do this, that I'll want to meet. I'll want to see all the museums. Pigeon, what's it called? Pigeon
Forge.
Forge. There's one in Tennessee. There's one in Massachusetts. There's New York.
Yes,
I have to see the harbor. I've been to New York in the 90s, but I wasn't interested in Titanic back then, so it didn't really mean anything to me.
Before 9/11.
Actually, we climbed the Empire State Building. We didn't go to the World Trade Center.
Okay.
So I've been fascinated with Titanic since maybe I was 10. I think the first event that involves the Titanic that I was connected, that connected me to Titanic was Ballard finding the Titanic. My grandparents, who came from the United States, showed me a National Geographic of finding the Titanic. I don't have it, unfortunately, but that made me know about Titanic, and that's how I started liking Titanic. My first Titanic book was a gift that I got for my bar mitzvah when I was 13. So then I started reading about Titanic, and ever since I've been, wanting to know more and more about it. And even now that my book is already, 2 years old already, I'm still always searching and learning more and wanting to learn more and asking myself questions.
You think you would do if you got enough information, would you do a revised edition?
Obviously. Only from what I showed you, there's the dishes, there's the clock, there's the watch that I have to write about. There's the anti-Semitism that I have to write about. There are obviously mistakes and corrections that I'll have to make about certain people on board. There were unanswered questions that I still have unanswered about certain passengers. Was George Rhymes Jewish? There's this thing that his brother was killed in the Holocaust, so that means he's Jewish. That doesn't mean anything.
And Rosa Pinsky, we never really knew what happened to her, right? She may have disappeared. Rosa Pinsky?
Rosa Pinsky, that's a great example.
Yeah,
Rosa Pinsky was Jewish. Rosa Pinsky was Jewish. She survived the Titanic. One of the questions I asked myself was, were there any of Titanic's survivors victims in the Holocaust? Did the Nazis kill a Titanic victim, a Titanic survivor? I'm sorry, I'm starting to get mixed up. It's after 11, but I'm okay.
And she was from Brooklyn, as was Barbara Stanwyck.
What?
She was from Brooklyn, as was Barbara Stanwyck, both from Brooklyn. Rosa Pinsky. Okay,
so Rosa Pinsky, more than one person told me that Rosa Pinsky was killed in the Holocaust. So I contacted the Israeli authority that deals with the Holocaust. That's the institute known as Yad Vashem. They have a list of all the victims that they know of, and there are over 20 Rosa Pinskys killed in the Holocaust. None of them fit the description of the Titanic Rosa Pinsky. We know where she's from. We know what town she's from. We know what country she's from. We know what age she is. None of them match her age nor match her area where she came from. So we don't know. Maybe she was killed. Maybe she wasn't. We know that Galinsky, the victim from Titanic, Eliezer Galinsky, his mother was killed in the Holocaust.
Oh.
Yes, Mary.
Question.
Yes.
I am of multiple ethnic descents, and I can pick up when a last name, a surname is kind of Greek sounding or French sounding or whatever. How do you know which people on the Titanic were Jewish in the first place?
Excellent question. I did something that in Hebrew we call crossing information. Okay. First of all, I went to the experts. I went to different internet sites, including Encyclopedia Titanica, which, by the way, have a lot of mistakes. You know Jacob Birnbaum?
That name's
Titanic
familiar.
No,
Titanic victim, Jacob Birnbaum. I'll show you his photo just a second.
that sounds familiar, but I couldn't place him.
I'll place him for you. I'll show you his photo. Just a second.
Okay.
That's him. Do you see him?
Okay. Yep.
Okay. This is his tombstone. It's entirely in Hebrew. Okay, wait just a second. I'll make it a little bit bigger. Okay, you see his tombstone?
Yes.
Okay, obviously he's Jewish.
Yes.
Okay. The reason he sailed on Titanic was he was supposed to sail a couple of weeks earlier, but his family asked him to stay home in Belgium for the Seder night, which is Passover. The Titanic sailed about a week and a half after Passover. You know what Passover is, right?
Okay.
Okay. The Jewish calendar and the Christian calendar sometimes are parallel. Okay. Passover is usually Easter.
Okay.
Passover and Easter is usually in the same time. In Encyclopedia Titanica, it says that Jacob Birnbaum was asked by his family to stay home for Easter. Now, if you don't do your research, you say, okay, this so-and-so was home for Easter, which means he's not Jewish, he's Christian. But we know that he's Jewish. So you can see that there's a mistake there. So even when I read information, even when I see information in front of my face, I still have to question it. There was this passenger, Antoinette, what's her name? That I wasn't sure if she was Jewish or not. I'll tell you what her name is. By the way, Mary, you asked a very good question.
Thank you. It just makes me wonder if you just start off with a surname and looked at it and go, well, that sounds Jewish.
No.
Or-
And I'll give you a few. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Flegenheimer Antoinette. She survived in lifeboat number 7. Some people say that she's Jewish. Some people say that she's not. Until I came across some kind of document that she was baptized.
Okay.
Okay. Now again, maybe it's not really her. The same thing with Rosa Pinsky. Was she not killed in Holocaust? When I started my research on my Hebrew book, I came across someone who wrote a list of Jewish-sounding names. One of the names on the list was Leopold Weiss. This guy. Do you see him? You see him?
Yep.
Okay. He's Jewish.
Okay.
His wife, Matilda, was Catholic. But her last name is Weiss.
Right.
Okay, so I know that she's Catholic, and I know her last name is Weiss, so I cannot use surnames as proof of one's origin in religion. You know, Benjamin Hart is Jewish. Eva Hart is not Jewish, but she's his daughter. Okay.
Okay.
When I did my research, I thought that she was Jewish because I figured, you know, the parents are Jewish. Esther sounds like a Jewish name, but Esther Hart is not Jewish, so Eva Hart is not Jewish.
Okay, I got you.
When I did my research, I had to cross-reference with various sources. I had lists in Hebrew and in Yiddish. I'll show you them.
What's the difference between Hebrew and
Yiddish?
Yiddish,
You're gonna show us something? I gotta make you host again. I had to take host. David just got here, so I just wanted to let him in. Hi, David.
Hi, David.
Let me give.
I can let him in anyway.
Hello, David.
I'm there.
I want to do share screen again.
I don't know.
Sure.
Did you not get a notice when he was trying to get in?
Yeah, I did.
And Yiddish is like Hebrew.
Because I stole that host so I could let David in.
I'm sorry, Dave. I missed that part.
Mary?
Yes.
Yiddish is
German.
the word Yiddish comes from the word Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's originated in Germany, and it sounds. If you know German, you'll understand Yiddish.
Okay.
If you know Hebrew, you might understand Yiddish. But it's written in Hebrew letters and in Hebrew characters.
That's fascinating. I always thought it was the same thing.
I don't know Yiddish. I know only a few words.
That's
here
crazy.
And there.
For some reason, I always thought it was basically the same thing. I never realized there was such a big difference.
Okay. I'm going to show you something that none of you can read, including myself, by the way.
Okay.
Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. This big word over here, it says forward. That's the name of the newspaper. You see it says forward in English?
Mm-hmm.
This is the word in Yiddish. It says forward. This word over here, it says tragedy. And this word here says Titanic. This is a paper about Titanic. Over here in Hebrew, there's a list. You see this one over here?
Yes.
Okay. It says that these are the survivors, and it says Abelson Henya, Abramson August, Burwitz so and so, Goldenberg Samuel and his wife, Hyman Abraham, Tosig woman, and so on. Traczynski, Rosenbaum, Roth, Sarah, Rothschild, M, woman. Okay. So that's a list of survivors published in a Hebrew newspaper in 1912.
Okay.
So if the information in that newspaper is correct, then everyone on that list is Jewish.
Wow.
There's only a little problem. Not everyone on the list is on the Titanic roster. Some of the names on that list were never on the Titanic.
Wow.
So the whole list may be wrong. You asked a very good question, Mary. I did a lot of effort into trying to answer that question for myself. Because I didn't have answers for every single passenger, at the end of my book, if you can see it over here, I made a list of all the Jewish passengers. I made a list of all the Jewish passengers.
Yep.
And I made a list of notable Titanic passengers and crew who might have been Jewish.
Okay.
Because until this day, I'm not sure if they're Jewish or not. One of them is George Rhymes, who I've mentioned. His brother was killed in the Holocaust, but that doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Another list is possible Jewish names of Jewish passengers who do not appear on the White Star Line or any official Titanic list.
Oh.
The reason that I have that list, one of the things that you missed in the beginning, Mary, is that I mentioned that I noticed the low number of Jewish names that I actually have. I expected many more. I have less than 80 names. I expected over 100. My theory is that many Jewish passengers sailed under assumed names because they fled persecution and anti-Semitism in Russia and in Eastern Europe.
Good theory.
We have proof of some of them. David Livshin, I'm going to show you a picture of him again.
Yeah, I do find it interesting how many people have used fake names when they got on the ship. It's almost like signing in at a hotel under an assumed name or something. I don't know why it's such a big deal.
Did that.
But it was interesting, like some people that were cheating on their spouses, or the twins, or the two boys. I can't. The French boys. Thank you. Thank you. I was blanking out. Thank you. But you know how many people have gone in and they were like, oh, well, they signed in with this. Oh, it turns out they were somebody else, or they did it for their business or something. It was very odd.
For many reasons. Why did the Duff Gordons do that? Why did Baron, what's his face? What's his real name? From second class, who wanted to upgrade his ticket.
Right.
Exactly. The card gambler.
Yes.
For obvious reasons. So one of the reasons,
Dave's awesome. He's like, I got this.
I explain it in the book.
Dave's like, I got this guy. I got this guy. My brain is like, I can't even. I'm trying to absorb. When I'm in absorb mode, it's really hard for me to go back and remember because I'm trying to soak in what you're telling me.
Well,
So sometimes my brain just goes, okay, I'm in absorb mode. So I'm not thinking about what I'm trying to spit out.
My problem is I've been talking for 3 hours and my English is not my first language.
Okay.
Feel free to cry, Uncle.
Fantastic.
You are.
The right word.
Nicely done.
How many times am I looking for the right word? What?
George Rosenshine.
George Rosenshine, who was not married.
Was Thorn.
He was not married, but he went as Thorn, which is his mistress's name. Guggenheim didn't go on assumed name because everyone knew who he was, so it wouldn't really help him so much. But again, the Duff Gordons did, so it doesn't mean anything. So many Jewish passengers sailed under assumed names. So let's just imagine that that you have a member of your family who's sailing on the Titanic from Europe, and you know that he's sailing on the Titanic, but you can't find his name not on the Carpathia nor on the White Star Line list. So where'd he go? And then you have a whole bunch of people that we know their names, but we know absolutely nothing about. So where all those people come from?
Right. What about the two ships that were White Star Line that they had the coal strike? So they had the two ships passengers transferred to Titanic, and I can't think of the name of the ships right now either.
Oceanic.
Help me out, Dave.
The Oceanic.
Yes. Was it the Nordic or something? What was the other one?
Well, the New York was parked there. That's
no, not the New York, the Nordic or something. There was the two ships that they commandeered the coal from the ships because of this coal strike. They transferred them to Titanic, and I can't think of the name of the ships.
I'll tell you what the other ship was. I have it written somewhere.
Definitely the Oceanic, for sure.
Sailing day, sailing day.
We have George Rosenshine buried here in Queens.
Oh.
Under his real name, George Rosenshine.
But I'm wondering how their passenger list transferred, if they did at all. When they transfer the two ships' passengers over to Titanic, how did they put them on the passenger list, or did they just kind of throw them on there? Or I know some people had their tickets changed, but I don't know how soon it was before they actually sailed. Like, did they transfer them within a week or two? Was it a month? You know, I know some people had to upgrade. I don't know. And I am blanking out on the names of the ships.
I'm looking for it right now.
Okay, thank you. Adriatic was one of them, I think. That sounds right. Dave would know, except for he just disappeared. Jill, do you know?
Say that again?
Adriatic.
Okay, I think it was the Adriatic.
So Adriatic and the Oceanic.
I'm sure Ellie can find it, though.
It wasn't Argo. Carmania.
SS Minnow.
Carmania. Dave, could it have been the Carmania?
Well, that would explain a lot because I've always felt like I'm a cross between Jen and Marianne, so that would work.
Carmania? I've never heard of that
That's
ship.
funny.
I'm gonna look it up.
Carmania would have been a Cunarder, and I'm not sure that people would have transferred from, would have transferred whole ships from Cunard to White Star.
Was it Oceanic and Adriatic?
Unless they did it during the coal strike.
That's what I'm saying. The coal strike that they had the two ships.
Because
it would have been Oceanic and Adriatic, I believe.
Thank you.
Guggenheim. Guggenheim was transferred from the Carmania to the Titanic.
Okay, there you go. It was probably during that coal strike.
Yeah, but that wouldn't have been the whole. That would not have been all the passengers. That would have just been.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't all the passengers.
So the whole passenger ships were the two White Stars that didn't sail, but people would have transferred individually if their ships didn't sail because of the coal strike. So
another issue that I dealt with in my research was other connections to Israel, Titanic connections to Israel. Now, Israel wasn't an independent country at the time, and we all know the famous story about the Strauss's visit in 1912, which is too long of a story for me to tell right now. But I found a very unique connection that no one talks about. Dr. Robert Ballard, he looks for shipwrecks, among other things. One of the shipwrecks that he found was the Titanic, obviously. Another one that he found was a famous Israeli submarine that was missing since the 60s, the Dakar, and he found it in the Mediterranean. And a few years ago, and I mentioned that in my book because maybe that'll cause Israelis to learn more about Titanic.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, Nathan Strauss went there later on, maybe the 20s.
The story with Nathan Strauss is very funny because when I contacted the city of Netanya, they are uncomfortable with the question. There's a city called Netanya in Israel that is supposedly named after Nathan Strauss, but they're not really comfortable with that. So they decide that it's not exactly correct. So I don't want to be involved in any political issues in Israel. So I just keep my way out of it.
Aren't there also streets named after Nathan?
There's
I know there's one in
Jerusalem. There's a street in Jerusalem called Strauss Street, named after Nathan Strauss. On that street, there's also a hospital named after him, the Strauss Hospital. I actually have a picture of it.
I was actually standing outside that when I found out my guide, who was, his family had, before he made Aliyah, his family emigrated.
Aliyah is the word for immigration to Israel.
Yes, and before he did that, he was born in New York, but his family emigrated to the United States aboard the Olympic. And he's giving me a whole tour in Israel. Nice. I think it was Special Forces in the IDF.
This is Nathan Strauss, Isidore Strauss's brother, and this is the hospital that he built and is named after him on Strauss Street in Jerusalem.
Wow.
And in New York, we also have Strauss Park, named for Nathan. And that's where the Jewish Daily Forward used to be published.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And the Lower East Side, there's a lot of historical pictures of signboards outside with Chinese, and a lot of them are in Yiddish because that was a big immigrant arrival for, several decades. Really, all the immigrants went there in New York and Boston and places, and there are Yiddish signboards all over the place in old Lower East Side, New York.
Wow. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that, Dave. I had no idea.
Okay.
Allie, I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
No problem.
Or a comment.
No problem.
In your research, have you found anything about the treatment of people in that era as far as first class? Maybe they were kind of like, oh, they're Jewish, but they wouldn't snub them because they were wealthy. And then second class, it was a little bit more like, I guess we'll accept you. And third class, it was almost like you're shunned. Do you feel like that was more of the attitude during that time? Or was it still more acceptable?
You're talking about Titanic or you're talking about the era?
The era. Did you find anything about that? And then when they were on the Titanic, there was one TV movie with George C. Scott as the Titanic ship captain, and Eva Marie Saint was a first-class passenger. And she was whispering about the Strausses going, they're Jewish, and things like that. So I'm guessing that even if the first-class passengers that were Jewish were probably accepted because they were well-to-do, and then the second class maybe not as much, and the third class even less. Do you feel like that was a possibility? Have you found that out in your research?
Well, I'll tell you what I did find in my research. Many of the Jewish passengers in first class knew each other prior to sailing on Titanic. The Strausses were friends with the Harrises. The Strausses were friends with the Guggenheims. This guy was friends with this guy, and he knew him. Rosenbaum knew Foreman. I mean, everyone knew that they all knew each other from different circles before departure. So every time I read a book about Titanic and I see a Jewish passenger having a conversation with some other passenger, I'm thinking to myself, maybe he's Jewish too. Maybe he's Jewish too. Like the guy who wrote about about Civil War. What's his name? Strauss's friend. Gracie. You know, he was a big fan of Strauss, but he wasn't Jewish, and you know they were very, very good friends. But every time, you know, you had something like that, I think to myself, you know, maybe they're Jewish, maybe they're... I don't think that people like the Strausses were shunned, people like Guggenheim, I don't think they were shunned. Maybe they were shunned because they were snobby and rich, but not because they were Jewish. In steerage, I think most of the people kept to themselves ethnically. In the movies that you see, if it's Night to Remember, and if it's the 1997 movie, you see them all dancing together. I think there's a scene in the 1997 movie when they're dancing in third class, when for a split second you see a guy wearing a talit walking by.
Right.
I paused on that scene many times, and it's hard for me to believe that it was really a talit, because you don't wear talits at night. And it just didn't make sense for a person to wear a talit in a public place like that, walking around while everyone is dancing. So maybe my eyes deceived me, or maybe Cameron really wanted to put that in the scene to show that there were different ethnic groups together. One of the questions that I asked myself was, were there any Jewish prayers on board? We know that first class had the captain, well, at least in the movies, you know, that the captain on Sunday does the prayer. Well, the Jews usually have their weekly, you know, famous prayers on Saturday. Historically, you know, if you take the Titanic just as an example, so historically, whenever you have a group of Jews, they'll always form an inner circle amongst themselves. And I can believe, I see your hand, Dave, just a second. I can believe that the Jews formed their own prayer groups on board, but there wasn't like a designated area. Did they do it in public, which everyone can watch? Look, when I go abroad, I was in China, I was in Japan, no, I wasn't in Japan, sorry. In China, in Greece, I was all over the place. And every time I want to pray my Jewish prayers, I'll always do it, you know, discreetly. People don't have to see me with my talis and stuff, you know, especially if I'm alone. So in a group, maybe they would have. I don't know. No proof. Yes, Dave.
Yes, in fact, the Strausses and Harrises did collaborate. They put together a Jewish, like an orphanage, I think, something about up in the Bronx, at least that, and maybe several other things.
I think I mentioned it.
Now, this is a book.
I've got that.
Good. This is from the Strauss Historical Society. I know my visuals are very bad here, but Joan Adler, the president, I invited her.
I've spoken to her.
Good. Yeah, she's very nice. I invited her to speak at for my tour guides, and she gave a terrific lecture. And afterwards, all sorts of hands shot up with questions, luckily. And one was kind of poorly worded, but it was just generally asking the same thing about, was there any sort of discrimination at that time? And I don't know her words really, but to paraphrase her, she basically said that simply the strength of his character just warded off any sort of discrimination or anti-Semitism. He was just so magnificent and so, you know, philanthropic, and did so many things for his employees at Macy's and everybody else that it was just impossible to, you know, discriminate against this person. He was bulletproof.
I found the name of the place that you mentioned. It's called the Educational Alliance.
That's it, right. It's where a hospital now is.
Okay.
I put a picture up of me and Paul Kurzman, the great
cool, holding the book.
grandson of this in the book he signed.
Oh yeah, I've seen that picture before.
Oh, I have another question for you. After the sinking, when they had all the relief efforts and the societies, the organizations, you know, Salvation Army popped up, all these other things. Did you notice anything particularly for the Jewish besides what Dave just mentioned?
Yes, yes. I talked about it in my presentation. I'll show you the picture.
Okay. I'm so sorry I missed it. I tried.
No, it's okay.
I logged and tried to log
I
in.
know, I felt so bad.
I'm like, I kept trying. I'm like, I gotta get in.
It was giving someone else. Was it just giving you? I thought it would give someone else trouble too.
Oh well. I'm just
Mary?
glad that I'm here now.
Mary?
Ellie was so nice to.
Mary,
Oh, wow.
When the Carpathia arrived at New York, there were representatives of a lot of charity groups, the Red Cross, Salvation Army, and so on. There were some Jewish groups. The most famous one of them is the Hebrew and Immigration Aid Society, known as HIAS, which still operates today.
Wow.
They housed approximately 27 survivors, mainly from third class. Not all of the 27 survivors that came to the Hebrew shelter were Jewish. In this photo, only 2 out of 10 are Jewish. The two images in the middle, that's Leah X and her baby Frank.
Okay, I recognize the
Jewish. Everyone else in this photo at the Jewish shelter, the rest of them are not Jewish. We know, I know that Sarah Roth, who married her fiance a while after the sinking, she was in a hospital. What hospital was it? Forgot the name of the hospital, but it wasn't a Jewish hospital.
Oh, St. Vincent's?
Is the big one.
Where a lot of passengers went,
that's right,
St.
Terry.
Vincent's.
Yeah, Dave's nodding his head.
Okay, so she was Jewish, but she wasn't housed at the Jewish shelter.
Okay.
So, like I said before, after the Titanic sank, people didn't care about religion so much, who's who and what's what. People helped where they could help. Margaret Brown helped Miriam Cantor to deal with the Russian ambassador, consulate.
Okay.
She walked with her and she explained to her and she helped her with the translation, and you know, they end up getting some money from the Russians. So I don't think that it was an issue. Like, people helped.
Good.
After the disaster, people helped. I
just didn't know if there was like a focus on just this particular group.
No, there wasn't.
That's good to know. Thank you.
And I'm happy that it came out the way it came out. I'm happy that, you know, if a person would have walked down the plank from gangway from the Carpathia, and the first question he would be asked, are you Jewish or Christian or Muslim or Buddhist or Chinese? And then they would like separate them to different shelters. That wouldn't have looked good.
Right.
And I'm happy that the Jewish organization like HIAS helped non-Jews, and I'm also happy that Jews ended up in shelters that were not necessarily Jewish shelters. I know that a lot of Jews were aided by the Red Cross. I know that the non-Jews were aided by the Jewish societies, and so on.
I wonder sometimes about the people that couldn't speak English and how, when they got off the Carpathia, what they did to get help. I mean, did they just follow an ambulance? Did someone come up to them? I would have think if they would have tried to stay in some kind of group so they could understand each other.
Not many steerage survived, so it wasn't really.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I mean, some did.
Family.
I have a comment. Just to put it in context for everybody, if everybody...
Wait, who's talking right now?
Richard.
It's Richard.
Oh, okay.
If anybody knows the story or the musical Fiddler on the Roof, that was set in 1905 in Russia, and there was a pogrom that was happening at the time that drove the family out of their village. So that kind of hostility towards Jews was very real in that era. And that is why you had a lot of them leave their countries. The pogroms were real back then, and I mean, it drove a lot of Russian Jews out of the country, and a lot of them emigrated here. So, but that musical, even though it's somewhat fictitious, does put it in context as to why a lot of people would have emigrated.
Mm-hmm.
I want to build on what you just said, Richard. I'm going to build another level. During those decades, from the 1880s until the 1920s, millions of people immigrated. I don't want to speak in superlatives, and I don't want to make up numbers, but many, many, many people immigrated for various reasons from Europe. If it's the Irish, and if it's the Italians, and so on. From my research, the Jewish communities, the Jewish immigrants, in percentage, had the largest percentage of immigrating families, not just members, not just individuals. A lot of Irish came alone, a lot of Italians came alone. With the Jews, it was families. The whole family was running away from Eastern Europe.
Mm.
And not just looking for a better opportunity in the land of opportunities, like for financial reasons. They were running for their lives.
Get out.
Right. I was reading, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. If somebody else was talking.
I just had a tie-in for that. I can wait.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, yes, the Italians were coming over. They helped build our subway, really, which was opened in 1904. And the Jews around that time, yes. Now, a lot of people have a lot of overlap with other disaster interests, like Jonathan Smith loved the San Francisco quake and so on. A big other disaster at the time was the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire.
I mentioned that in my book.
Right, and that's a big issue too. A lot of Italian women were killed. A lot of Jewish women were killed as a big, thing, and still had some overlaps with Titanic. And in Mount Zion Cemetery, where we do have Sinai Counter buried, is also the last living survivor of the Triangle Factory fire, and her name is Rose Friedman.
Wow.
And there she is now. So.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
Exactly where Sinai Counter is, but Ellie, if and when you do come with me, I can bring you to Rose Friedman, who was the last survivor of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire.
Wow.
How many people were lost in that fire, Dave?
Over 100.
Over 100? Oh my gosh.
146.
I was just watching America in Color. Have you all seen that on the Smithsonian Channel?
Oh.
No.
They actually, it's a series. Ellie, I'm gonna take my glasses off because there's such a glare. You guys are all a little blurry, but it's not bad. American Color, they focus on certain eras, like the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 60s, and they put it in color. And they had Alaska last night, but they had like recreation, and they showed like Coney Island and things like that, and the rides at the turn of the century, things like that. They've had the immigration one was fascinating because they just showed all these home movies of people coming over. And basically American Color is a lot of home movies that we've never seen before from individuals, and they've colorized them so we can kind of get a better feel of what their lives are like. And a lot of people, for some reason, see stuff in black and white and they don't associate people as being like us.
Actually, a lot of that was black. It was actually color footage. I don't think they colorized any of it because it's a whole series they did.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. You're right, Richard. I'm so sorry.
They did World
You're
War II
absolutely
color
right.
and everything else, and it was.
I apologize.
A color film. So
it's just in the beginning when they do this wash, they start from black and white and they wash it into color. So I didn't realize that, but you're absolutely right, Richard. Thank you. But it's fascinating to watch this when they do different series on different decades. You could probably get it on the web, Ellie, if you get to the Smithsonian channel.
I've been to the Smithsonian Museum.
So if you look in the Smithsonian channel, You might be able to see it on YouTube
I
or
don't,
another type of internet option. But check out that because they show so many things about the immigrants. Like I didn't realize Bank of America was originally Bank of Italy and things like that. But they also showed this, they were showing this school that they had built somewhere and there was a gas leak, but it was odorless and no one knew. And the entire school blew up and there was like 300 people that died. But they are showing things in history that I was not even aware of, even stuff that happened near me. So it's really fascinating to watch because it focuses on so many different things. I wish they would do one more on the turn of the century. They've done some, but I don't think they've actually focused on that decade. I think it starts in the 1920s. Richard, do you know?
no. And just for everybody's information, I put the Amazon link up to Ellie's book in
Thank
the
you.
chat. So I don't want it to get buried, but if you go back in the chat and look up, there's the Amazon link.
Wait,
to Ellie's book if you wanna
Richard,
get it.
before you, Richard,
Yes, sir.
I appreciate, don't call me sir. I appreciate you putting the link on Amazon. I'm not trying to force people to buy my book, but if people buy the book directly from me and not through Amazon, then first of all, your book is personally autographed by the author. Second of all, it gets shipped from Israel, which is a little bit expensive, but it's worth it.
You have a link, or are you on eBay?
I'm not on eBay. I sell them personally. Anyone, I have a page on Facebook called Jews of the Titanic. Maybe Jill can put it
So
on again.
it's better to get right from you directly than order from like Amazon.
Well,
Definitely if they want it
from my
signed.
point of view, yes.
Yeah, because
Amazon is ridiculous.
But it's more expensive buying it from me because you also have to pay for shipping from
But you
Israel,
get
which is shipping is approximately, if I'm not mistaken, $5.
Oh, that's not bad. And you get a signed copy, which is really nice. And I loved what you put up there about doing a book exchange. Are you
Yeah, I
open to
think
doing other kinds of books? Because I have other books here you might
No,
want.
just Titanic books. Sorry.
Okay. I mean other Titanic books if I'm not an author. That's what I
Well,
mean.
I have books about other subjects in my house too, but I prefer.
No, I mean, are you willing to do a trade with people that aren't authors like me that have books to offer? I guess.
I don't know. I didn't think of it that way.
Because I can show you my library. You can let me know if you like anything.
I have a question, Ellie.
Yes.
In regards to what was spoken on the Titanic, do you think it was a mix of if they spoke Hebrew, do you think they were speaking Hebrew or Yiddish? I would assume if they were coming from Germany, probably more Yiddish.
I'd assume Yiddish because Hebrew wasn't so much spoken in the Jewish world at the time. Actually, it's funny that you're asking because the Jewish family that started reviving the Hebrew language is the Ben Yehuda family, and the son Itamar Ben Yehuda, who is known as the first Hebrew speaker child, was the correspondent for some newspapers in Paris, and he was one of the only people who wrote about Titanic in Hebrew, while everyone else wrote in Yiddish. I assume that the Jewish passengers in steerage spoke Yiddish to one another because that was the worldwide known language for Jews. So Jews from Poland could speak Yiddish, and from Germany and from Hungary and from Russia, they were able to communicate with each other in Yiddish.
Ellie, I found the particular episode I was talking about, America in Color, from the Smithsonian channel. It's called Coming to America. It's on YouTube. It was in 2019 that they put it out.
Okay,
and it's the one I think you might want to watch just to see. It shows a lot of the immigration and the different cultures.
If I do Jewish scene Coming to America on YouTube, I will probably find Eddie Murphy speaking Yiddish from Coming to America and the barbershop scene.
You don't want to put Jews. You just want to put.
I'm kidding.
Okay, good. Because I was like, oh my gosh, I know what you mean. Because that part was like.
You don't wait. You don't know that scene?
Yes, I do, and you're cracking me up.
That's the best scene in the movie.
Yeah, it's so. I love
Eddie
he does
Murphy,
that.
Eddie
The
Murphy.
extra part where he's doing the talk about the soup
Yes.
spoon. Oh
Yes.
my gosh.
Yes. So
It actually reminded me of my great grandfather. My grandfather was Greek, but he would do stuff like that, and it just cracked me up.
Yes.
That's so funny.
Yes.
I love that part.
Yes.
It's funny how many Yiddish words we use and don't think about. Don't you think so?
Yiddish
I guess you don't know because you're in Israel, but in America we use words like putz a lot, and schmaltz, and chutzpah and things like this, and we don't even realize that we're speaking Yiddish. We just kind of.
You know what, Mary? I'm going to add to what you said. In Israel, you think that we don't have that. In Israel, we say a lot of words in Aramaic, which is a dead language.
Right.
Aramaic is a dead language. We use many Aramaic words in our daily conversation in Israel.
What Jesus spoke.
That's amazing. That is what Jesus spoke. You're right, Dave.
Oh, actually, he spoke Hebrew.
Hebrew, yeah.
Hebrew and Aramaic.
And Aramaic, yep.
Yeah. By the way, did you ever see that movie, The Passion of the Christ?
Yes.
I saw it once or twice, but I can't see it because of Mel Gibson.
Yep. That was quite something. It was so moving. It was really hard to watch. I saw it in the theater and I was just sobbing.
Anyway,
I actually had a interesting discussion with a Messianic Jew who came to our church, and he had his own book, and I actually have a beautiful watercolor of a man in a, I don't know what you call the Jewish robe that goes over your shoulders, the shawl.
Talit.
What is it?
Talit. Talit. T-A-L-I-T.
Watercolor of it, and it's very touching to me.
Actually, I'll show you a picture of one.
Yeah, thank you.
No, not just anyone. This one.
Yes, yes.
You know who that is?
No.
That's a Titanic survivor.
Right, but I don't know who it is.
His name is Mayor Moore. He was 5 years old during the Titanic, and this is from his bar mitzvah.
Okay.
That's his mother, Bella.
Okay. So that was after the sinking and he survived. That's wonderful.
Yep.
What about Frankie Goldsmith? Was he Jewish?
No.
Okay. Just had
there was a Jewish goldsmith on the Titanic. His name was Nathan, but he has nothing to do with Frankie Goldsmith.
Okay.
I happen to know that.
Yeah. What do you think was your most intimate, moving part of learning about these people's lives? What really hit you the most?
I'll tell you exactly what hit me the most. I'll show you.
Okay.
And I'm happy. You have very good questions, you know?
Thank you.
You were prepared for this.
Hey, it's off the top of my head. I really wasn't prepared.
This guy.
Yes.
Jacob Birnbaum, his story really touched me. First of all, he's Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
His tombstone is written entirely in Hebrew. Now, as opposed to, let's say, Sinai Cantor, who has Hebrew and English, Brandeis, who is only in English, Leopold Weiss, who has mostly English, but he does have the Star of David, not to mention the Strausses and so on. Birnbaum is the only Titanic victim whose entire tombstone is in Hebrew. Now, as an Israeli, that really, really touched me. And the story that he sailed on the Titanic because he had to stay home for the Seder night really, really touched me. I really felt a connection with this specific victim.
It's interesting, too, that the watch was recovered. I'm assuming that that's what we're looking at as his watch.
Yeah, that was his watch.
how, I mean, I know that there's a lot of watches that have been engraved, but how would you know which watch belonged to which victim?
It was on his body.
Oh, okay. I find the
found the
watches
body.
are so personal.
They
They're like
found-
wedding rings to me.
They found the body, so it was on the body. Same
Okay.
thing with Cantor. Cantor's watch. Same thing with Cantor's watch. His watch was on his body, and his body
Okay.
was found and buried and identified.
Wow. Can I ask you something about Halifax, if you don't mind?
I'll be happy to be asked about Halifax.
I have never
If your
been.
question- If your question is, will I accept a free ticket to fly back there? The answer is yes.
I would definitely. I would love to go there because my great grandfather was a Greek Orthodox priest, and he went to Halifax and Ottawa and was the first Greek priest actually sent there to establish churches, and he was the first one ordained in those churches. And it was probably 15 years after the Titanic disaster. And I would love to go to see where he was and the churches that he started. But I was wondering if now the cemeteries there in Halifax, are they multicultural, or are they separated by ethnicity? Are they just all in one? Is there like a section for each at the ones?
Fortunately, I can answer that because I actually know.
Okay.
And the reason that I know is because I was there.
Okay.
And like I said before, I'd be more than happy to go back there. How many cemeteries are there in Halifax today? I don't know. What I do know is that the old cemeteries from back then, there were 3 cemeteries where the victims were buried. There's the Baron de Hirsch Jewish Cemetery, and that answers your question. The Jews were buried in a Jewish cemetery. Fairview Lawn is Protestant, I think.
Okay.
And Mount Olivet is Catholic.
Okay. I had not heard of Baron de Hirsch before.
What?
I had never heard of the Jewish cemetery before you just said that.
So
I don't know why. I just never heard of it.
Okay. So every single body that was brought ashore, every single Titanic victim that was brought ashore was sent only to Halifax. Families that wanted their loved ones buried elsewhere had the bodies shipped from Halifax elsewhere.
Okay.
It could be Europe, it could be United States, it could be Canada, it could be anywhere else. Approximately 60 families had their loved ones shipped outside of Halifax.
Okay.
Of the hundreds of bodies that were brought ashore, of the 200-ish bodies that were brought ashore, 121 bodies were buried in Fairview Lawn, which is Protestant, 19 in Mount Olivet, which is Catholic, and 10 bodies were buried in the Baron de Hirsch, which was a Jewish cemetery.
Okay.
If you ask, were the Titanic victims buried by what their ethnicity is, the answer is absolutely not, because many of the victims were unknown.
Okay.
So you wouldn't know if they're Jewish or Catholic or Muslim or Buddhist or whatever. I mean, say for argument's sake that one of the victims was Chinese, where would you bury him?
Right.
In the Jewish cemetery, in the Catholic cemetery, okay, just for, for argument's sake. And because there are dozens of unknowns, so they were scattered in all 3 cemeteries. Obviously, Fairview Lawn was the biggest one of them all, and the other 2 were smaller.
Okay.
Now, at the time, if you don't think only of Titanic, but just an average Halifax resident, when a person dies, he's buried in the cemetery that belongs to his community. So if
Okay.
you're Catholic, you're buried in the Catholic cemetery. If you're Jewish, you're buried in the Jewish cemetery. Same thing in Israel. Today in Israel, in large cities like Jerusalem, if
Mhm.
you're, there are different kinds of Jewish roots and backgrounds, the Ashkenazi Jews and the Moroccan Jews and so on. So they're buried in cemeteries that are especially loved. Yemenite Jews are buried in Yemenite Jews in
Okay.
the cemeteries. Now, they can mix. Obviously, they can mix if they wish to. But communities, as a community, would have their own cemetery, even today. And I'm sure that you have that. I'm sure every single one of you, their parents and great-grandparents and whatever, have like a family area, a family plot in a very specific cemetery that belongs to their specific community.
That would make a lot of sense. As far as the Strasses, I've never seen their burial. I'm sure Dave probably has it on his tour, which would be awesome to see, but I don't know where it is or what. I know the Astor is at Holy Trinity, I believe.
He's at Trinity Church.
Trinity Church, yep.
Not
And that's the one that was in the National Treasure movie, right?
No, that's Wall Street. Trinity has another one at 155th Street at Broadway.
Oh, so it's
By the
not
way,
the
I
same
don't know.
one. Interesting.
No, but from the same place.
Okay. But
Yeah.
what is the, as far, I know the Strauss had a huge, like,
Mausoleum.
yeah, but I don't know, I've never seen it or don't know what it looks like or where it is.
It's up
I'm
at
sure
the
Dave
top.
could show me on the tour, but
I can
something
actually
like
see-
that, would that be, I know that would be more on the upscale. They had more money, they were well known, all that. When you have a Jewish burial, is there a ceremony that you do? Is there some kind of, like the Catholic has the last rites before someone passes if they can? Is there something like
Wait,
that?
can you repeat the question?
If they didn't have it, was that a bad thing?
I lost concentration for a second. What was the question?
Basically, when a Catholic person is about to die, they have last rites by a priest.
Okay.
If there is someone that is Jewish that is dying, is there a special prayer, a ceremonial
Yes.
thing? And if they're
Yes,
buried
there
like that, do they have it over their grave?
Yes, there is, and unfortunately, I was there, so I participated in such an event. When my father was on his deathbed, there's a ceremony that you need to be lucky to do it, because usually when people die, they don't always have an opportunity to do it. What do you call I'm looking for the right words in English. What do you call the thing where a person goes to a priest and he forgives you for all your sins?
Confession.
Absolution.
Atonement.
Absolution.
Absolution.
Okay, so we have something like that.
Thanks, Richard.
We have something like that. Hunter, are you here?
Yeah.
Hunter, you're listening to this?
Yes, I am.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. There's this thing that's sort of similar to absolution, where the person who is dying, if he has the power to be able to speak, he does it himself, and if not, so his family members does it with him. You recite certain verses from the Bible, such as the Shema, certain portions of Psalms. You confess. You don't have to go into specifics. You
Okay.
confess all your sins and ask for what do you call it? Atonement?
Absolution.
Absolution?
Absolute.
you
It's like
ask for that?
forgiveness.
What?
It's like forgiveness.
You ask forgiveness from God, and you close your eyes and then you die.
Okay.
Okay. Unfortunately, I went through that process with my father when he was on
I'm
his
sorry.
deathbed a couple of years ago. He was already unconscious at the time, but he was still alive. So I did it for him. He probably was aware of what was going on, but he wasn't able to communicate at the time. Now, after a person dies, there's a ceremony, not exactly a ceremony. They take the body, they clean the body, and they wrap the body in Hunter, what's the word I'm looking for?
A shroud?
No, it's oh, I just went through this. Oh,
I know you did.
and I'm thinking, what's it called? It's kind of, it's like a, it's like a cloth kind of thing.
It's like a cloth. It's the same material that they make the tallies out of. Okay.
Okay.
They wrap the body in it, so when the body is on display, you don't see the person. I know that in movies, so with Christians, there's an open casket and you see the face.
It depends on what they want. Not always, but
okay. In Jewish law, there's no such thing. The whole body is covered, and if it's a male, they cover him with a talit, and on top of that, they cover with a black covering, so the whole body is covered. During the burial, obviously, there's a lot of texts that are said. There's the Kaddish, there's the mourning. People say stuff. The orphans say certain things. You bury the body. In Jewish tradition, usually we do not bury in caskets and in wooden boxes. Usually, there's a hole is dug in the ground, and the body is laid with the wrappings, and then they remove the talis away because we don't want to bury him with the talis, and then we cover the rest of we cover the body with dirt, and a week later we start building the stone.
Okay. I'm curious as to how they handle it on the Mackay Bennett and the other ships that rescued the bodies, because I know there was a priest there. I don't know if he just did all the rituals that a priest would do for everybody, or they tried to do something if they noticed the person with a different ethnicity. It would be interesting to know what they did.
Mary, I'll take even further back in time. 3 bodies were buried at sea by the Carpathia.
Okay. Wow.
They had what do they call it? A pastor?
Mm-hmm.
They had a pastor do the ceremony. One of the 3 was Jewish.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Wow. I didn't realize they even recovered bodies from the Carpathia. I hadn't heard that.
No, he died during the night.
Oh.
From the lifeboat.
Yeah, people in the lifeboats who were dead were still taken aboard the Carpathia and buried.
I had no idea. Thank you for letting me know. No, I didn't know that. I'm always wondering what the people did in the upturned boat that stood on it and were trying to balance on it and hang on. That was the one that really gets me the most. I know there was a lifeboat that had water up to their knees, things like that. The upturned one, the struggle they must have gone through just is so impactful for me.
There's a lot of death on lifeboat
wow.
A. Lots of death on lifeboat A. That was the one that was filled with water.
Yes.
The one that Lightoller was on, and
no, he was on B.
Phillips, and
at least right, they were all on overturned B.
Yes,
B.
overturned B.
Lightoller was on B, not on A.
Yes, but that one is the one that really gets to me. That it was upturned, and I don't even know if there was one stuck underneath it for a while. The people that tried to hang on, the people that were trying to balance. I can't imagine.
All I know is that if I were on the Titanic, knowing what I know now, I would probably escape on lifeboat number 1.
What I find interesting, and I don't know, my mom and I call it a God thing, like when you see a sign that you feel like it was from God. And I think that their sunset that was so beautiful the night of the sinking, and the beautiful sunrise they had where the light was bouncing off the icebergs and stuff, to me that was kind of like a God thing, showing that there were signs of hope, like he's still with you. He knew it was going to be a rough night. He was trying to show, it was almost like seeing a rainbow or something. It was just a very, it seemed to me like God was reaching out and saying, I am with you, even through all of this.
I'm not into that, because disasters happen all the time.
Right.
And you know, maybe the Titanic is one of the more famous disasters of all time, but many more people died in other disasters. I don't look at it like that. I think whoever built the Titanic and also the other lines, the Lusitania and all those people, and the Germans that were also building at the time big ships, they were just trying to outdo each other, and eventually something like that would have happened. And if the Titanic wouldn't have hit an iceberg, then something else would have happened to a different ship later on.
Yeah.
And it's just,
And
you
it
know,
still did, like the Empress of Ireland. There's other ships that have had terrible disaster. I'm just talking about like the weather sign, like having such a good sunset right before the sinking, having such a beautiful sunrise the next day. To me, it just seemed like the people that were given a little bit of a sign of hope that God was still with them no matter what. That's just me.
9/11 was a very beautiful day.
Right, exactly. And I always think of the parallel between 9/11 and the Titanic disaster.
Yeah, Ellie,
Dave, I'm sure being in New York, that probably rings true for you.
Ellie,
I'm not sure how you feel about that.
Some Jewish guy, I don't know who it is, I never read it, wrote a book about the Jews of 9/11.
Mm.
About, you know, all the Jewish victims. Just,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Ellie,
Yes.
I know it's after midnight there. How are you doing on time?
Well, first of all, I'm a teacher who is not teaching during the summer, so I don't have to get up so early tomorrow. Second of all, there's a pandemic, so I'm not going anywhere tomorrow. Look, I'll tell you what. When I asked Jill to do this on Sunday, I wanted it to be in an hour that's comfortable for as many people as possible, knowing that I thought I'm starting at 11. So the fact that he started at 9 is great for me.
Right now it's 5 in New York.
What?
Yeah, I was just wondering. Jill had to leave, or her computer got glitchy, so she left.
Oh.
So I'm kind of in charge now. So I just want to make sure you're okay on time and
Well,
how long we need to go before we call this.
We have a few options. We can either decide to keep going, or we can decide that it's enough, or we can decide that we should continue some other time.
It'd be totally up to you. We could also
Absolutely.
We can also stop the Facebook stream and the recording and just go right into a chat. But if there's more questions about your book,
Okay.
if everybody wants to focus on that, on the book and all that, I want to make sure we catch that on the YouTube and the Facebook.
Okay, so does anyone have specific questions about the book?
I have a question.
Not everyone at once.
Lady first.
Mary had a question, but
I have a question.
Yes.
Briefly, I saw a flash of orchestra music with either Hebrew or Yiddish on it.
Where, on my presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
One of your pictures, it had multiple pictures of things. It was after the disaster.
That one.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. That's it. You went right there. The Titanic's disaster on the right.
Yes.
I would like to know more about that if you do know anything about that.
I own one.
Because I've seen the sheet music before, but I didn't know what it was.
Yes, I have the lyrics. I even have the translation of it to English and to Hebrew. It was written by Solomon Shmulevitz, and it was
Published in New York.
What I'm looking for, it's
Down at the bottom.
not exactly a lamentation. It's a ballad. It's a ballad about the Titanic disaster. One of the issues that the Jews had to deal with after the disaster was anti-Semitic remarks about the fact that many Jewish first-class survivors pushed people to get into boats and save themselves. Obviously, it wasn't true, and the proof that Jews had to show the anti-Semitics that the Jews did not try to save themselves was the acts by Ida Strauss. So she became a local hero in Jewish folklore. She was even during the weeks that followed the disaster, when they were talking about the Jewish heroes of the disaster, they compared Ida Strauss to the biblical Ruth, who said, "Where you go, I go," which is basically a biblical quote from Ruth that was put in Ida Strauss' words. If she really said that or not, that's not the point right now. But she became a hero, and she's the main theme of this specific ballad called "The Titanic Disaster." In Yiddish, the title is "The Destruction of the Titanic," and the subtitle is "The Watery Grave."
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. That helps a lot, because I've seen the front of the sheet music, but I didn't know the backstory behind it. Thank you.
Okay, I've got one question, or a couple of questions. Out of all the Jewish people that were on the ship, have you ever been able to break down what countries they came from, other than Holland?
I never broke down that in that sense, but I do know I have the list of all the passengers, all the Jewish passengers, and I have their biographies. So in a matter of minutes, I can tell you who came from where and to break down how many came from what country. The problem is that in their biographies, in a lot of cases, it would say Russia. Now, Russia back then wasn't exactly a country. You had people from the Ukraine. You had Poland. People from Poland were registered as people from Russia, for instance. So that's a bit of a problem. With the first class passengers, it's not as much of an issue because, you know, Guggenheim came from the United States. Weiss came from England. England. Yeah.
And the question would be, that'd be interesting to read that, to see what destinations they came from. Also, what about the descendants now? I mean, have you come across many from different nationalities, or more from America point of view?
Unfortunately, I was not able to make contact with any living descendants in Israel. I was told that Titanic victim David Livshin, who died when his wife was pregnant, this guy over here, when he died, his wife was pregnant. She was in America at the time. She named her son after the father. I was told that they have descendants living in Israel. I was not able to contact them. I couldn't find a way. I just don't know who they are. Most of the descendants that I've been in contact are all from the United States. I think one of them has descendants in Canada. I'm going through the names. I think Saalfeld has relatives in this guy. I think his granddaughter is in Canada, I think.
Okay.
I remember I was in contact with her. Yeah.
Nice. That's good. I'd be interested. I'm interested in all those type of things, where the descendants came from, and if there's any of the descendants from which country they live from now. Anyway, so like you say, there's quite a majority of Jewish people on the ship. It'd be interesting to know where they actually came from. I mean, some are must have boarded from Southampton, but whether the boarded from France, for example, on the Jewish side.
Sure, George.
Interesting. I never thought of it that way.
Okay, thank you very much.
Now, may I remark a little bit on my background?
That's the Baron de Hirsch Cemetery in Montreal?
No, this is one in Staten Island. Baron de Hirsch has lots of cemeteries in different places for poor people, immigrants, wherever. And I took this picture when I went to take photographs of some triangle victims. So yes, he has one in New York City, On Staten Island, Rhonda Hirsch is here too as well.
Okay.
And since I've cleared that out, Marianne, this is the Strauss Mausoleum that you were asking about before. Yes, it is very large, and his 3 sons are also here.
Thank you. How do I make the screen bigger so I can see you, Dave?
I
I
think,
click on your picture.
I don't think, oh, okay.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I did.
Wow, that's incredible.
And where is this one?
That's in the Bronx, up in Woodlawn Cemetery.
Wow. In
My
Woodlawn
father's from
Cemetery?
the
Okay.
Bronx.
Thank you
That
for
is
thinking I could do
incredible.
that, Dave, on our for the Titanic
100%.
gathering thing.
Good, thank
Thanks,
you.
Dave.
Sure.
Thank you.
No, it's after being cleaned too. It's very grimy and gray looking for a very long time, and then they really just wiped it down and really made it really sharp looking.
That's really beautiful. I'm assuming the 2 ends are the actual mausoleum and then they have a connecting.
Well, there were some little chambers in the middle, like this one here.
Mm-hmm.
We look inside and we saw a plaque that seemed to be identical to the one in Macy's. With
Oh,
the 2
cool.
faces
Very odd, and
before.
it's unknown that it's there by a lot of people.
That's right. And the names of the boys, Percy and Jesse and whoever else, were written above on the top too as well.
Oh, that's really cool.
There, yeah.
What's the figurine thing in the middle? The small thing right where your finger is.
Looks like a ship.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
Looks like some sort of Egyptian.
Yeah, I can't quite
vessel.
tell what it is.
And those are little oars out in the back on both sides of it.
Oh, wow.
These are little gates, and they have the embellishment is very odd because it's those backward swastikas. As you know, the swastika predates Nazi Germany
Right.
by a very, very long time. Even the Native Americans used them, the Japanese. But
Yeah.
this fence sometimes is open and sometimes it's not. If you can walk through, on the other side of that boat is a biblical quote. Many fire, the love quench, drown, something I can't recite it right now, but it's on the other side of that, not visible usually to the public.
Oh, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how they would feel knowing what the swastika became later.
Well, again, it was backwards. It's inverted. It was the opposite direction.
Okay. But I mean, you know what I'm saying, though? I mean, I would think that, like, there's nothing against it now. It's just like the pentagram and some other symbols that have changed so much.
There are specifics. The Nazis only displayed it going one way.
That's right.
I've never seen it reversed.
In a very specific angle too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
It was diagonal.
other is not, and that the Nazis didn't use what they call the swastika. It's the Hakenkreuz, mean broken cross.
Ooh.
It's the German term for it. We all call it the swastika, which is the Indian or Sanskrit, or what I'm saying, the version of it.
Indian, like India, not Indian Native American.
Yeah, India. That's their word for it was the what was the swastika, and German, it's always the Hakenkreuz, which is broken cross, and it's only displayed one way, although you will see it either at a 45-degree angle or a 90-degree angle. Now, does that mean we can go and do the opposite one as a good luck symbol in this day and age? No, it does not, because people will associate any form of it, whether it's the correct German one or not, as being the Nazi symbol. So it is pretty much ruined for everybody. Even a lot of the Native Americans and stuff here had used that symbol. It's pretty much worldwide. Predated the Nazis as a symbol of good luck.
And the Japanese call them manji, M-A-N-J-I. There are a lot of Buddhist temples.
Okay.
Got one more
is-
question. Sorry,
yes.
got one more question. The ship that you got, the photographs that you got, they had a ship that's a photograph of a ship on fire. Is that what was the name of that ship then?
What?
The
You have a
Capricorn.
photograph of a ship that was on fire on with the that one on there. What was this one at the bottom?
That's the Cape Arcona. That's the
Oh,
ship that the Nazi Titanic used to portray the Titanic in their
Okay.
movie. And the bottom picture is it's on fire after it was attacked during World War II by the British.
Never seen that one before. That's shocking. Yeah. No, I heard that they linked it up with a lot of gas, didn't they? To put a lot of gas cylinders on the ship. They were going to take it out anyway and do to get the British to so I'd take the blame for them to destroy the ship. Okay. What a tragedy.
Yes. Okay. Richard, do we want to end now? Do we want to continue some other time?
Let's call this for the if there's any last calls for book questions. I did put the link to the Facebook Jews of the Titanic page up in the chat, so people can go there.
Yeah, people can contact me. People can contact me directly through Facebook, either through my personal page or through my Jews of the Titanic page. People can personal message me if they want, and I will do my best to participate in more Zoom meetings if they have if it's on hours that I'm awake because of the time difference. Whenever it's 2 o'clock for you, I'm 7 hours before you in America. So when it's 2 o'clock in New York, it's 9 p.m. in Israel. So you have to take that in consideration. But I'm just one person, so you guys do what you think is right, and I'll try to join when I can.
All right. Thank you for. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording, but I'd like to thank you for coming and sharing your book with us.
Toda rabah.
I'm looking forward to getting a copy and reading it. I've got my Christianity kind of has roots to Judaism. In fact, I've even participated in a Seder before, so I know what that's like, and it's really a fascinating culture, and I really enjoy seeing the connection. So, all right, I'm stopping the.
I just want to show you one last thing. This is what Don Lynch wrote on the back of my book.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, that's Don Lynch. I asked
That's
him to write,
really special.
I asked him to write a foreword for me, and I quoted him on the back.
That's wonderful.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Lila
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so
Madam
much.
Clerk,